Yeah. And welcome to the Vomitorium. I am your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. I slept way longer than I planned, but that's probably a good thing because I have not been getting a lot of sleep lately. Yep.
Yeah, me neither. I got decent. I think I got 8 hours last night, so.
I'm trying to think when it. Yeah, probably about the same. Yeah, and I shaved my head. I feel a lot better. I hate it when I have too much hair in my head.
I need to shave my face.
Yeah, I did that not too long ago.
Coming in. I haven't grown a beard in a while, and I'm just noticing that I'm a little gray here and there. That,
Oh no!
Where I didn't used to be.
We call them wisdom locks.
Yeah, okay. With whiskers.
Wisdom whiskers.
They're right here.
Yeah. They're not a sign of old age, they're a sign of experience.
That's right.
Yeah. Just means you've been grinding
but,
against too many enemies for your own good.
Hopefully we're not delayed like last time.
No, I actually figured out what the problem was last time. My computer did not tell me, but apparently it decided to go into airplane mode. Which it's not right now. I even double checked. And being in airplane mode, it prioritized the call over everything else.
How did that even work at all? I thought airplane mode just turned off everything.
I don't know.
You know what?
Yeah. But we should be good now. We got a few things to talk about. Let me actually look at the live stream and double check. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Rick. Rick is here.
So the first thing I guess we'll talk about is Smash Brothers, since I brought it up. And there was a lot of announcements centered around the new fighter and then, other things. And I'll be honest, I highly expected this person to be in it. It wasn't a matter of if, it was more of when, and I'm still disappointed. And it's the Steve from Minecraft.
Steve.
Yeah. Who he actually looks like he plays pretty interesting. I don't think he's going to be a very good character competitively, but most people don't play Smash competitively. They play it casually, and he'll probably be fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you like Minecraft, you probably don't play most games competitively. Like, there's an overlap, but it's really thin.
Yeah. Well, it looks interesting. He's got some good juggling moves, and he can hit while moving and stuff like that. I'm not sure if other characters can do.
There's a few. Because basically what his intention is what we call sharking, right? Where you want to throw somebody up and then you want to get underneath them, because in Smash Brothers, you're in disadvantage if you're in the air, right? He looked too slow to be good at sharking, though. Like, some matchups will be fine, but it's not like Wolf and Fox are really good at sharking people and stuff like that.
Well, it looks very complicated. Like, they showed a lot of moves involving. Obviously, you can upgrade your weapons using a crafting table. You have to mine for materials and upgrade. And then you can create blocks and create a minecart and all this stuff that looks very complicated to learn how to do it.
And I don't know if you'll have enough time to do all that in an actual match, right? Like, if you're in a multi-man...
When you, like creating the TNT, and you have to set up a redstone and the trigger so that you don't blow yourself up. And it's like, how are you going to do that in the middle of a match?
Yeah. Like, again, if you're in a 3-man or more match, like a multi-man, right, free for all, and the other people are preoccupied with each other, you can do some setup stuff. Or if you're playing against like a really slow opponent, like a tank, Bowser or something like that, maybe you can run to the other side of the arena and set something up. But I think most matchups, you're not going to have time to do anything.
Yeah. Like, you have to do a minecart, and then you have to make, like, tracks, and it's just like, why is this so complicated?
Yeah.
It's just a fighting game. It's crazy.
So she, like, freaking... Somebody who plays Fox is just going to be like, shoot, run, punch.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you don't have any, I mean, that's your sort of long distance, and like the mine cart is like getting to the character quickly, but other than that, you don't have any long distance weapons.
Oh yeah, like if this was any other character, it'd be like Bowser Jr. goes into his cart mode, or Villager, I guess, would be the closest one, because Villager does have some setup stuff. You just hop on the gyroid and just go. You're going on a trip in your favorite rocket ship.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess it has. I'm trying to remember the other stuff. Like you can fly and make blocks and stuff. I guess you can blocks to block, missile weapons or attacks or whatever. But you got to mine for material to get that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the worst part, right? Because any Villager player will tell you that the hardest thing is setting up that tree. Right? Just like planting it down, letting it grow up, and then chopping it down or something. Once it's grown, it's fine, because you can kind of even use it as like a body block for projectiles and stuff like that. But then it's like, okay, the tree's there, who's going to approach the tree? Right? Like, now you have this thing set up, who's going to come close to it? Now you have to try to hit something with it. Or if you're playing, there's a few characters that will, but Fox will just like run up and hit his deflector as soon as the tree comes down, and then it lands on you. Right? Like, a lot of these setup stuff is useless in an actual match.
Yeah.
But again, it's
a gimmick player, I think.
And it's built around, like, Minecraft is probably one of the most casual games. Like, even in hardcore mode, it's pretty casual. So it's probably centered around all those casual Smash Brothers players, which is probably like the bulk of people that play the game.
I guess so.
Yeah. But what's more important than Steve himself are all the fighters, the Mii Fighter outfits that are coming with it. Because at least the Mii Fighter, you know exactly how they play, and they play okay, so then you can just make it whatever you want. And I'm actually kind of upset about one of them, because I wanted him to be an actual fighter, and now that he's a Mii Fighter, there's no way he'll be in it, and that was Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes was confirmed as a Mii Fighter outfit.
Oh, okay.
And Travis Touchdown deserved to be a Smash Fighter. Anybody knows the history of the game, the fact that its release date was pushed up so that Sakurai could have more time with Brawl, the relationship that Suda and Sakurai have, and everything about it. Travis Touchdown should be a character. Now he's just like resorted to being a costume for the Mii Fighters, and it's very upsetting. Definitely deserved it more than Steve, if we're talking about relation to the game. But obviously Minecraft is a way more popular game than No More Heroes is. It's in the top 50 most profitable games in the world. Not as high as you'd think it would be, though. I think it's like number 30 something. I thought it would have been like in the top 15, but I guess
Smash Brothers?
No, Minecraft. I thought Minecraft would be in the top 15 most profitable franchises, but it's actually top 30.
Oh, well.
And that's
if you like combine all the sales from the entire
everything.
franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, of top selling games ever, it's got to be up there.
Oh, I'm assuming so,
Doesn't
yeah.
it?
But most of its money comes from merchandise, as most of these games do. And if you've ever been in like a Target or Walmart, there's tons of like Minecraft toys and plushes and stuff like that. And not even just a game store, because you think something like ThinkGeek or GameStop would have Minecraft things, but even just in a normal store, all the kids are collecting Minecraft stuff.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, Minecraft is the best-selling video game of all time.
No, really?
Yeah, by far. Almost by double.
Yeah, I can believe that, though.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of these other franchises are bigger. Like, they have more than one game, right? So Minecraft can beat a lot of them out with being the single best-selling game, but then, like, you've got Pokemon, which has how many games and spin-offs and stuff now, and then all the merchandise. Because Pokemon is the single most profitable franchise on the planet. Even more profitable than most fast food franchises.
Yeah.
You know. And I think when it comes to video game franchises, if we're talking about things that are video games first or strictly, Mario is the next one. If you combine all the games and the merchandise and stuff like that together. Which worldwide, there's a lot of Mario merchandise. I was looking at a chart that had like the top 50 game franchises on there. I don't know why they consider Dragon Ball. Being the fact that Dragon Ball is not primarily a video game franchise, but it was on the list at like number, I don't know, 47 or something like that. Yo, a Pokemon-themed fast food chain? I would eat there. Buck in the chat says, imagine a Pokemon-themed fast food chain. I would try it. Just as long as the fish fillets aren't named after Magikarp, because it'd be the first thing to get me not to eat it. I saw James try to bite into one of those in the TV show and break his teeth. But, yeah, no, it's a very profitable game. Like, I understand exactly why Steve is in it. A lot of me and my local friends have been joking from the very beginning, every single time that a new fighter was announced, it better not be Steve. Because we understood how realistic the odds of him being in the game were. We just didn't want him to be in it, because there's other characters we would have preferred more. So again, it wasn't a matter of if he was going to be in the game, it was when. And I think sandwiching him in the middle of Fighter Pass 2 is probably the best way to do it. Because you minimize the amount of people that would be upset by this, right? Because it actually crashed Twitter. Did you see that?
What, that whole thing about Steve?
Yeah, the reaction to Steve crashed it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, during the time. And then it made it even worse afterwards, because when it came back, there were one of the trending things under gaming was Crash, but it was talking about the Twitter crash, and people who didn't see the initial announcement thought Crash was the character that was announced until you keep scrolling and you see it's Steve. So there's this big confusion that people thought Crash Bandicoot was announced, who I thought was another likely character to have been in the place that I equally yeah, no, I think I would have rather had Steve than Crash, to be honest, like if I would have picked between the two. But with his game that just came out, which we can talk about that a little bit too, I thought it was very likely that Crash would have been the DLC character.
Mm-hmm.
But it confused a lot of people, and that was funny. Like, it's a Twitter crash. Why is it trending under gaming?
Mm-hmm.
But there are some other ones too, other than Travis Touchdown. This one I thought was weird, that I didn't think it was going to be in it, but it was Gil from the Tower of Druaga. I don't know if you've ever played the Tower of Druaga. I think it's Druaga, but yeah. You ever play it?
No.
Okay, so the premise of Tower of Druaga is it's this old, like, arcade game. Right, like I don't even think it was even ever on the NES. I think you have to emulate it through either like MAME, the multiple arcade machine emulator, or you have to have it on like some plug and play device, which I had it on a plug and play device at one point in time. And Tower Druaga is this game where you play as an adventurer, right? And most games are, and you're trying to scale up this tower to get the treasure at the top, and every tower floor is like filled with enemies and stuff, and you have to kill all the enemies to be able to unlock the next level. You're trying to find keys and stuff like that, and it's like a top-down Zelda-ish like game, and you're basically just trying to get to the top, and it's a hard game. Like the first few floors, like any game like that as a quarter eater, is easy, and then after you get to like floor like 6 or whatever, it starts getting really difficult. And it's like a really popular arcade game back in the day. It was Druaga no 2 in Japanese, which just means Tower of Druaga. And it was so popular eventually, it was on... it was in the Namco Museum. That might actually be where I played it, because I had Namco Museum. I remember that I played this game around the time that plug and play started becoming a thing. And Namco Museum was around that time too, so that might have actually been where I played it. And you're just trying to scale up. I don't know if I've ever beat the game, but there's also, for people who don't want to go back and play the game, it's pretty iconic. There's a anime series that's got 2 different seasons, which is Sword of Druaga and right, and Aegis of Druaga or whatever. They have different names for each one, but it's the Tower of Druaga, and the anime is pretty good for people who just want like a quick catch up on stuff like that. And Gilza going to be a sword Mii fighter, and I thought that was cool, especially in some of my chats. A lot of people that had no idea what the hell a Tower of Druaga even was.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love the concept of it. Yeah.
I've never played it.
It's a difficult game, but like anything that was designed to eat quarters back in the day became difficult.
Yeah.
But like, I like the concept so much, I even had this gauntlet in tabletop RPGs that I would run, where it's like a 50-floor tower that you have to progress through. And I based it off the concept of the Tower of Druaga, and I've run it several times. And it's like, it's really bad when I'm trying to explain it to somebody. Like, yeah, it's kind of like the Tower of Druaga, and they're just like, what? Yeah. It was not on the Game Boy Advanced re-release, though. Well, I didn't have the Game Boy version. I've only played the PlayStation version of the Namco Museum anyway. Which I loved, like, navigating the museum. You ever play the Namco Museum for PlayStation?
Not on PlayStation. I feel like that sounds familiar.
Like I said, there's a Game Boy Advance re-release of it, but I believe it doesn't have the cool museum wandering aspect. So the way the Namco Museum was on the PlayStation was that you're actually walking through a museum, like in first person, and it's got like all this cool polygon design, and you're going from part to part of the museum, and in it, each room is kind of based on a game. So it's decorated to look like the game and stuff, and then you can play the game by going to like a cabinet or whatever in the museum, like in that room. So you can play like all these old Namco games, like Pac-Man and stuff. I think when in the Pac-Man world, you actually find Pac-Man on the toilet in his house. You open the door and he's like on a newspaper and he's shocked, and then the door closes back on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love that.
I think I might be thinking of like Midway Arcade. Do you ever play that?
Yeah. Midway Arcade was great. I love all those old Midway games.
All kinds of arcade games, yeah.
What was it? 2006, I think, is when Midway finally died for good, and all of its properties were bought up by different people. Midway USA was a really good developer. It's a shame that they're not still in business.
Mm-hmm.
There was another. Oh, and Bomberman now has an outfit, and with Bomberman, it actually it replaces the Mii Fighter's head with Bomberman's head, so you actually kind of fully look like Bomberman. So that's kind of cool. I'm surprised Bomberman wasn't a character, honestly. Like, I know he was a spirit. And they did kind of say that the spirits weren't going to have characters. But, yeah. Bomberman is fun. Like, you just be tossing bombs at people the whole match. That's all you had to do. Like, his down B could be like the kick bomb, where you, like, roll it across the map and stuff like that. But his moveset builds itself. And he'd also, like, be a high-risk, high-reward character, because he could kill himself. Since Bomberman is affected by his own bombs. That would be great. Like, I would totally play that character. Just because you know his bombs are going to kill people super easily at the cost of the fact that he could kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he's a Mii fighter. I think that's actually the really disappointing part with two of these. Like, not so much that I care about Gil not being a character, because again, I never even expected him to come in as a Mii fighter. I don't think anybody did. But two of these, Travis Touchdown and Bomberman, totally could have and should have been playable characters.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some Minecraft outfits too that came with it, which they have the diamond armor and sword that you can put on your Mii fighter. For the Mii brawler, they have a creeper outfit, and for the brawler as well, they have the pig outfit. So, yeah. And you'd expect that, right? If you're the main character that's actually being released, that your game should have more support for the fighters. That only makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, man, I like the fact that the last fighter, the arms fighter, what's her name? Min Min, I believe, the Chinese one. I like that she's in it. I think there should have been an ARMS character in the game from the start, like default in the game. It shouldn't have been DLC. But so far, this fighter pass has just been like really disappointing compared to like the last one, which was just ramping up to better announcements from the beginning. Yeah.
So is this a DLC pack that you could buy months ago, or?
Well, okay, so Steve's gonna be part of the Fighter Pass, yeah. So it's kind of like a season pass. Fighter Pass 1 came with 5 characters, so you buy it at the beginning, and as each character comes out, you can get it all. Or if you don't care for all the characters or don't want to risk the fact that you may not care for it, you can just buy them one at a time. And you do save some money by buying it through the Fighter Pass. And they leave it active, so it's not like, a lot of games after the season pass finishes, they just get rid of it and you have to buy everything individually. They just leave it as a bundle afterwards.
Yeah.
And the new one is going to have 6 fighters, so we're 2 out of 6 into Fighter Pass 2. So it's kind of like Season 2.
Oh. Any clues as to? So wait, does the Steve one count as just one?
Yeah. Steve is one character.
Okay.
I watched the thing, but I got cut off. I didn't finish it. I didn't go back and watch it, so I didn't see if they displayed his alts. Usually they show you like the palettes and the skins that the character have, but I don't know if Steve's alts are like the other, like the Minecraft woman character, the other default or anything like that. You watched through the whole thing?
Most of it.
Did you catch what his palette swaps were?
He can be the girl and a zombie and Enderman.
Oh, okay. That's better than just like the girl and having different color variations of that. Yeah. Alex, zombie, Enderman. Yeah, I didn't catch that part. I got cut off, honestly. Like, I caught the beginning of his trailer and then I had to run out. And then by the time that I got back, I completely forgot to go back and check out the rest of the trailer. I probably should have before this started.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm getting like multiple texts from a client. I'll just be like 5 or 10 minutes. I hate to be distracted.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just ramble about stuff in the meantime.
I'll stay on, but yeah, I just need to mute myself for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so that's all the Smash Brothers stuff, really. Again, I was just so disappointed that Travis Touchdown was not an actual playable character. He would have had such a fun moveset, too, because people are like, oh, but he'd be another sword fighter. And now he is just another sword fighter, literally. But, he has, like, a lot of wrestling stuff, so the sword would have been for his smash attacks, probably, but the dude would have been a grappler. Like, all of his specials would have been command grabs. And it's It's really upsetting that we don't get Super Weeb Travis Touchdown. I would have mained him. I don't even care if he would have been absolute shit. I would have dropped everything to main him. Hello, hello.
What's up?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really disappointed in this fighter pass so far.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the me fighter thing, so that's garbage.
Yeah. What was even sad is that it was a Suda51 that even put out. Like, he's probably just glad that he's in as a Mii fighter. He's like, Travis Touchdown will be joining Smash Brothers as a Mii fighter with the like exclamation mark. And like, I can understand just being happy your dude's in the game, but he got robbed.
One second, I'm looking at the article talking about the costumes because I haven't seen them yet.
Oh, okay. I'm actually kind of just done with that subject though. I don't really have too much. Like, if I try to talk about it anymore, I'm gonna start getting sad.
At least the Gil and Powerman ones look nice.
Well, I mean, even the Travis Touchdown one looks nice. I mean, he kind of also looks like you could use his head to be somebody from the Yakuza series.
At least
But, I mean, he kind of also looks like you could use his head to be somebody from the Yakuza series.
Yeah, sorry, I was checking the live stream because in Discord I sound really garbled up and I didn't know how well I was coming out on the recording.
Probably awful. I just boosted your volume.
Live stream because
Yeah.
in Discord I sound really garbled up and I didn't know how well I was coming out on the recording. Alright, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got more interesting news, something that's funny to joke about. And Sega, not too long ago, had made an announcement. Did you see what Sega's hardware announcement was?
No, I didn't. I just came back from work and I did basically nothing on the computer until this started.
Well, no, this was announced back in like the 1st. We just have not talked about it yet. And,
oh, well, yeah, I don't know.
So the Sega has announced that there is going to be the Game Gear Micro.
Oh dear God!
Because who on earth asked for the Game Gear Micro? That's what I want to know, right? But you know how small this thing is? It's gonna be $50, and it's going to be smaller than a Dreamcast VMU. And actually, here, let me find it. I'm gonna put a picture on the live stream for people watching to see. There's a tweet. I don't want to show the tweet. I'll open image in new tab. Need to. Okay. Let me find my browser. And bam. Okay, so this is the size. And if anybody's familiar with the Dreamcast VMU, which was somehow both tiny and bulky at the same time, I don't know how you pull that off. But it's probably because of the purpose, right? This is supposed to be a memory card with a tiny screen on it so you could play certain things or aspects of the game when you weren't home. Like the Chow Garden for the original Sonic Adventure was on the VMU. But this thing was like a fat Tamagotchi, right? That's how big the VMU was. Maybe... I'm trying to find something vocally that I can compare it to in size.
That thing looks microscopic compared to the original Game Gear.
Yeah. I would say if you have a 3DS near you, or know what it looks like, a VMU in total was probably the size of one of the screens. That'd be a fair representation of how small that thing was. So this thing is going to be smaller than your phone, smaller than a phone screen. Actually, it's probably about the size of like, or maybe even a little bit smaller. Remember those old phones, like the kind of like non-flip pay-as-you-go phones that we used to have? Like way back in the day?
Does Sega not remember that they needed to sell a magnifying glass to attach to the original Game Gear in the first place?
I forgot how like big it is, because I remember the Game Gear was bigger than the Game Boy.
It was decently big, but because of the way the screen worked, it didn't like look too good. So they had like this magnifier attachment you could buy for it.
Yeah, maybe the Game Boy had a magnifier though. But those old screens were shit. Yeah, like I'm looking at the original Game Gear in somebody's hands, and it looks like it's slightly bigger than the original Game Boy, just if you turned it sideways. It's definitely bigger than holding a 3DS. Yeah, because the buttons are bigger too. That looks like yeah. But the freaking control pad is small as shit too, for like, because you're looking at the size of like the buttons compared to the size of the control pad, and they're like huge. And like, why is the D-pad so small compared to these two bulking buttons?
Yeah, we've figured out controller design.
Yeah.
Not hard.
And like, one of the weirdest things about it too is the Game Gear was trying to be a full color portable system at a time where like Nintendo was still struggling to make a black and white system work. And they were wondering why there were large discrepancies in not only screen size but also battery life between the two systems. It's like, of course, you don't know what you're doing. It took forever for the Game Boy Advance, which had basically the same graphical capabilities as the Game Gear, to finally get that right. That was like almost a decade later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I had the original Game Gear around here somewhere, and it has to charge almost constantly while I'm playing it.
Yeah. But at least it's not the worst handheld system of the same time that came out, which tried to do the same thing, but it was even bulkier, and you basically had to play it plugged in even back then, right? And that was the TurboGrafx. And if there's anything that I like, why would you bring that back? They better not try to bring back the TurboGrafx, because that was like the dumbest idea for a handheld.
Like the TurboGrafx Mini?
Man, if they made a TurboGrafx Mini.
Because
did they make a TurboGrafx Mini?
16?
Well, because there's a portable TurboGrafx.
Okay. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
The Turbo Express, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know they made a mobile version of the TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah, and it was it looked kind of like a Game Boy, but it was like way bigger with a tiny screen.
Oh yeah, I see it. Turbo
And
Express.
It had like no battery life at all. I think there's like a port at the bottom, like a lot of these systems had for charging. And pretty much anybody who wanted to play it had to find a wall outlet somewhere, even if like you were on the go, and just plug it in and play it through that. And at least the Game Gear was trying to be different than the Game Boy, because there's a few other things that came out around the time of the Game Boy that was basically just the same design. And at least Game Gear, Sega turned it on its head, like sideways, and kind of has like what we got with the Game Boy Advance later on.
Yeah. This was straight up trying to be a color Game Boy.
Yeah, yeah. Like this huge like mount on the side and stuff too. It's like, oof.
Well, what is this thing with the switches? Looking at it, there's like a Switch 1 and a Switch 2. Makes it way more complicated.
Yeah, well, you've played the old school TurboGrafx, like the 16 and stuff, right?
A long time ago.
Yeah, dude, that thing was a mess in itself. And you're gonna take something that was like a mess and try to make a portable version of it? I don't know. It didn't seem like a very smart idea.
Yeah. Maybe that's volume control. What those buttons are, switches. Yeah, I had a friend who had a TurboGrafx 16. He had a bunch of games that were imported from Japan. And it was cool. I only remember one game. It was Xrd, which was a battle strategy game, kind of turn-based strategy.
Wow, yeah, I love those type of games.
But it was cool because your character, it was almost like Transformers. Your characters could transform into like a fast-moving vehicle and go across the battlefield really quickly, or you could slow down, and I guess you'd have more attack power if you went slowly.
Probably. But that does sound like a fun game.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the only game I remember.
Yeah, I thought one of the smartest things with handhelds back then was the fact that they only went black and white for the Game Boy. Because not only because they increased the battery, but the screens really weren't that good back then. I think everybody knew this. We didn't even have backlight until the Game Boy Advance SP when it came to Nintendo systems. Yeah. Right? And for a good reason, too, because until they started involving like a lithium battery, it would just be too much of a drain on the system to have a backlit screen.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did to kind of fix this was knowing that the screen's not that good and that people have different like variants of eyesight or like different lighting would affect things. They had a contrast slider since they're only working in black and white. Two colors are basically on and off was more of what it was, right? So it was either a black pixel was displayed or nothing was displayed, right? So then you have this
4 levels, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And then you have like this contrast slider that can pull things up and down, and you can adjust it for the lighting. For the time, that was a genius move. Especially with how, like, I think the Game Boy Pocket specifically had slightly longer battery life than the original Game Boy. It had upwards of like 5 times the battery life of the Game Gear, so you weren't having to trade them out as often. And it was also using AAA batteries.
If you look at the Game Gear screen, it's really hard to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's color, sort of, but it's just like, there's not enough contrast. So I think they made a smart move waiting until you get it right with the Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
They managed to get whatever the screen is made out of higher contrast colors.
Even with the Game Boy Color, though, because there was no backlight, you didn't as often need a magnifier like you did with the Game Boy Pocket, but you still kind of needed like one of those plug-in overhead lights for certain play times and stuff like that.
Yeah, you obviously had to have a really bright light, like it worked best with sunlight.
Yeah, I always had one of those like attachment magnifiers that you put on the top, and it kind of like folds in. And then it could just sit on the screen nice, and you just fold it out, and there's a magnifier with a light that goes over it. Those were, like, super popular at the time.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know how they how they did the screen in such a way that it wasn't backlit and like benefited from a bright light. Because like today, you don't want to be in bright light because it's you'll be able to see it better in darkness.
Yeah, well, that has to do with the fact that it's backlit, right?
Right.
It's back projected, so because the light isn't coming from behind you initially, any additional light would create light pollution, right? So it actually would get in the way of you being able to see what's on the screen. Since, light is just waves and photons interacting with each other.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at it. It's the Game Boy Color was a reflective thin film transistor.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea was it would reflect the ambient light back at you.
Yeah. Which is just
Kids
how we see
now
everything.
Will never know the pain of trying to play a game in the car and not having a car behind you to light it.
Yeah, and no.
Or waiting for the street lights.
Yeah. Now
that was one of our trips to Minnesota or New Mexico for me, because there was nothing, no road lights, no nothing.
Yep.
That's most of America.
Of course, now they've got iPads and stuff that are so bright. And
yeah. It's actually kind of weird when you think about it, though. Like most people don't think about the science behind it because most people don't think about the science of anything in their day-to-day life. But the way we see everything normally is reflected light off of surfaces, right? So that's how like the original Game Boy worked and the Game Boy Color. But now we're looking at all the TVs would be the first to do it, as far as we know, but projected light, right? Where instead of looking at a reflection, we're actually getting light projected directly at us, like if we were to look at a light source. That's not even how we see movies, right? Because movies are projected at a screen and then reflected back at us.
Right.
So we still kind of see them the same way we see everything else, instead of like a directed light source. It's very interesting. And that's also why we, with the newer screens, we can get more vivid colors than we used to, because the old ones we had to do everything in low value, so it wasn't too bright and burning our eyes, combinations of red, blue, and green, which are how our cones see anyway. We have red, blue, and green cones in our eyes.
Yeah.
And they had to keep it low enough that, again, we wouldn't burn our eyes from looking at it. You wouldn't get like a sunburn on your eye or anything like that. But now with our modern back projected LCD screens and LED screens at this point too, the light can be cool enough without damaging us, but also having a wide variety of true colors. Yeah. It's very interesting where that technology has gotten to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, once they got off the cathode ray tube and actually had LED screens, they could make portable screens that were actually bright and comfortable.
Yeah, could you imagine if we still were using tubes and vacuum systems and stuff like that for portable, and somebody's just carrying around a block this big to watch something?
Well, I used to have a TV, like a portable TV that was handheld.
Yeah. I had one for camping. It's fine.
Is it a portable CRT? I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't that heavy, but it was kind of bulky.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that thick from front to back, and about the size of a Game Boy. Really, really thick. I guess that's how it worked. Maybe it's an LCD screen. I have no idea.
I don't know. I remember I used to have a really small portable TV that had it was probably around the size of original Game Boy, maybe a little thicker like that, and it had a big antenna, right? For yeah. And it was the screen was tiny.
Networks. Yeah, network stations.
Yeah.
There's a scene in Rain Man where he was watching Judge Wapner on a little portable screen.
Speaking of portable things that I had that I would bring with camping that was about the same size, that Nintendo used to do this, and they don't do this anymore, but they used to put their brand on everything, right? And I had a Nintendo portable radio back in the day that I would bring to me with me when we went to watch NASCAR races and stuff like that. And it was just a normal, portable radio, but it was like gray with like a blue cap on the top, and it had like the Nintendo logo on it, and like a yellow dial, and it was like
nothing to do with Nintendo.
Yeah, nothing other than the fact that it was their brand and they made money selling it, right? But Nintendo was a toy company for the longest time, so it was probably like as they were making their transition from general toy to only doing video games, this was just like a remnant that was left over. And it's like now Nintendo doesn't even make their own toys, they outsource everything. Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
I said now Nintendo doesn't even make their own toys at base. They outsource everything for anything that's related to it.
They license that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they used to actually produce toys back in the day, especially cards, playing cards and stuff like that, Hanafuda and stuff. That was like Nintendo's big thing before they got into video games.
Isn't that how they got started, like 120 years ago?
Yeah, they've been around longer than games have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I thought they got, well, at least one of their early things was like cards, like, I don't know if it was playing cards or tarot cards.
Hanafuda specifically was the thing that got it, which is that card game where, I don't know if you've ever played Hanafuda, but you sit around with a group of people, and it's a like collection game. You're trying to get the deck, and in your hand you've got like, it's almost like a rock paper scissors in a way. There's like different cards with elements on it, and they trump each other, so you're like trying to throw things down. That's the most simplistic way I can explain Hanafuda without actually getting into like the nitty gritty of the game. They actually still produce some for the longest time too. Back when Club Nintendo, which was doing physical rewards, for anybody who remembers Club Nintendo before they restructured everything, one of the older things you could get was a Mario Hanafuda card set, where it was Hanafuda, but all the cards were obviously changed to be Mario characters. And it's just a playing card game, like a normal one, almost like having like a bicycle card deck, but a specific type of game.
Looks like you can get them still today on Amazon.
But that's where Nintendo's legacy comes from, was playing cards back in the day, and they did some other toys and stuff like that. And that's why I think like the radio, because they were doing kids electronics before they got into video games. When electronics became a thing, all toy companies were, right? And then obviously you get into video games because all toy companies are making video games. It was toy companies that first got into the gaming market. Atari was probably the first one to be strictly an electronics company.
Yeah.
And now almost all of these things, you don't even see a remnant of their toy company self in their systems.
So that reminded me of another news item. I think something that's newsworthy.
Oh yeah.
Having to do with Smash Brothers and the Kirby card game that I just found on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Is that Notch is back on Twitter.
Oh, I love Notch. What's he doing?
He changed his avatar to the square Kirby. It's when Kirby eats Steve.
Oh God, I saw that and I hate it. Worst Kirby.
So Notch is now the square Kirby. I guess that inspired him to come back.
I mean, I get why he would. I mean, this is actually a really big deal for Notch, even though he's like financially completely disconnected from this game now. But it is still kind of his baby, so I am happy for Notch that the character he created is in the game.
Yeah. Cool. I can't remember, he left Twitter as a deal with someone for something. I don't remember what.
Oh, and I guess the deal got broken or was over.
I guess. It was something to do with, like, if you stop doing such and such, I'll leave Twitter or something. I don't remember what. Some blue check mark complaining about something. He got them to stop complaining.
They probably started complaining again. That's probably why he's back.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Notch is such a good troll, though. Like, Just the way he goes up, because he doesn't really attack people. You know, like, he kind of just, like, lets people make fun of themselves and then exploits it. Yeah. And I think that's probably the most fun way to do things.
Yeah, he's cool. I know I'm following. Oh, and you know did you know I forget what it was, but his prior avatar on Twitter was made by your Nerd Wonder.
Yeah, I remember that. They've actually had a lot of interactions with each other. I always saw her replying to his stuff and everything.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. What is his background? Oh, it looks like... Oh, it's something from Doom?
Yeah. And for anybody listening who don't know, your Nerd Wonder is kind of just a mutual within the comic circles that we're in.
Yeah, she's an artist.
Yeah.
She's doing some comic book.
Really good person. Deserves a follow.
Definitely. Damn, now I gotta figure out when his previous last tweet was.
But yeah, I just don't know why you'd come out with the Game Gear Micro. It's so small. And the worst part is, the screen looks proportionately small, right? So, like, if you just shrunk the rest of the system around the original screen size, that probably wouldn't have been a problem, right? But the screen looks so tiny. What are you gonna do? This is a console for ants? How you gonna put out a handheld console whose screen is smaller than the screen on the VMU?
What is a VMU?
That was the Dreamcast save card. That was like a tiny handheld in itself, right? It had buttons on it and stuff, and you could do like the Chow Garden and a bunch of other stuff depending on the game on the VMU. And I put up a picture earlier while you were still in your call, but the Game Gear Micro is visibly smaller than the VMU. And I'm just
visual memory.
Why? Yeah, visual memory unit.
Game Gear Micro. Is that something that's coming out?
Yeah, they've already announced it. Some people already have their demo versions and stuff like that. The photo of it next to it is from Japanese gaming magazine Famitsu that everybody's familiar with by now.
A handheld small enough that actual hedgehogs can play Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, they can't. They can't see in color.
I hope the screen is bright. I imagine it will be.
I hope it's actually higher quality than the old screen, despite being smaller.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping that these aren't even like 1-to-1 ports of the games, and are actually just like a port of the Genesis game that was out at the same, or like a Saturn game that was out at the same time, and just put onto that screen. Because a lot of the Game Gear games were just console ports that were reduced to be able to play on that system. There were a few that were Game Gear only games, but it was like smaller than the ported category, like library. So like if you're gonna play Sonic the Hedgehog on there, I hope it's like the actual like Genesis version of Sonic the Hedgehog instead of the Game Gear version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they could put a whole Genesis library on there.
Oh yeah, like they're tiny games. They take up no space whatsoever. At least, by today's memory standards. It reminds me of, which I thought this was the dumbest idea. I think I've ranted about this on the podcast before, but the Game Boy Micro. Which was so stupid. I think we were talking about this, on the DS day. when they ended the DS. We were talking about like all the family of Game Boy to the 3DS, right? I had a buddy who had a Game Boy Micro too, and we were talking about, and he brought it to a movie theater just because he could, and he bought the Game Boy Micro strictly to have it. That was it. It was actually a mutual friend of me and Buck, if Buck even considers him a friend, probably not. But Brian, right, had a Game Boy Micro.
You know, it does not surprise me that he bought that just to have it.
Yeah. And it was like barely big enough that it wasn't even backwards compatible to the Game Boy. You only fit the Game Boy Advance cartridge in there, and that was like the size of the whole thing. It was smaller than most cell phones at the time. And that was back with, flip phones were still popular, and those little, we were talking about before, pay-as-you-go phones that didn't flip, that everything kind of just, like, barely fit in people's hands, and not in the good way. Like, you feel like you could break your phone just by squeezing it.
Well, we now have phones that you could actually break by squeezing it.
I don't know, I tried too hard. My phone's pretty dang sturdy. And you put a case around it too, I guess, but that's more so if you drop it than anything. It's like we went through this weird arc of having those indestructible Nokia phones to like cheap plastic phones that anything could break to literally the only thing you're worried about breaking on this phone is the screen, because it's like 90% of the phone surface area. Very weird arc. But yeah, like I don't understand these micro handheld games. Just like I don't understand the XLs unless you're like a big person, but there are a lot of big people, so I can get that a little bit better than the micro. What is this, like a Game Boy for dwarves? Last I checked, dwarves' hands actually weren't super small. They could probably still play a Game Boy just fine.
Yeah. Maybe hobbits.
Yeah.
Hobbits have smaller hands.
But like if when I was a little kid, because I had my first Game Boy when I was like, I don't know, 4, right? It was around the time that the Game Boy Pocket had come out, like a few years after the original Game Boy. I had absolutely no problem ever using the Game Boy Pocket with my tiny 4-year-old hands. That was fine. So I think like anything smaller than that just seems unnecessary. Because the Game Boy Pocket was already the right size that you could fit it in your pocket. Hence the name. So I kind of get getting bigger. Because bigger people typically also have bigger pockets, so you don't have problems fitting it in there. Bigger people also typically have bigger hands, so I can understand if everything's crowded, you might be fat fingering buttons or stuff like that. I know bigger people like tend to prefer the Xbox controller over other controllers just because there's more room for their hands. But it's like the Game Boy was already the perfect minimum size. You don't need to go any smaller than that. Or the Game Boy Pocket specifically. The original Game Boy was a fat disaster in some ways. That's why a lot of people refer to it as the brick.
Yeah, it was amazing for the time.
Oh yeah, it was great, dude.
Not exactly sleek by today's standards.
I remember when I was around that age, because I got mine around the same time that Pokemon came out, just slightly before it, and I actually got Pokemon on launch. I was an excited little kid My dad knew I liked RPGs. I had been playing RPGs a lot by then. I actually taught myself how to read by playing RPGs. I had like a 4th grade reading level by the time I got into kindergarten, strictly from playing things like Final Fantasy. And he's like, he heard about the RPG because my mom had been collecting Nintendo Power. He needs something to read on the toilet, so he's reading about games that are coming out, seeing if there's anything that I might like, and my brothers later on as they got older too. And he saw this Pokemon game, and he noticed that in Nintendo Power somebody related it to Final Fantasy and stuff like that because it is a turn-based RPG. And he's like, okay, let's go get it. And irresponsibly, at like the age of 4, my dad takes me to a midnight release at Toys R Us, and I get Pokemon Red. Yeah, and it was perfect. Like I had no problem playing this game. This is also why I say that I think Pokemon's becoming too easy, as I've said so many times before, in a bad way. I had no problem beating the original Pokemon when it came out, and I was a young little brat. You know, you can't make these games any more accessible than they already are. But I don't want to get back on that rant. I just, size-wise, I was always a small child, too. So I was probably smaller than most 4-year-olds, and I had tiny hands. And I had no problem playing any of these games at the time. Link's Awakening. I didn't have the original Super Mario Land, so I didn't play that till later, but like when I think it was Super Mario Land 4? Was that Wario Land? Whenever Wario Land came out, I played that one. Donkey Kong Land, which was just Donkey Kong Country remade for the Game Boy and stuff. No problem playing any of these games at that age on the Game Boy Pocket. It was like the perfect size for a kid. But the funniest thing was at that time, the recent Pokemon came up, is you have no shame when you're a kid, like when you're that small. You don't really start getting shame until maybe you get closer to your preteens to teenage years and stuff like that. And it's probably because I think girls have a lot to do, and vice versa for girls. Boys have a lot to do with when shame comes in. But as a little kid, and no shame, and I basically had a purse for my Game Boy. Right? It was like this little Pikachu bag that had like a slot at the bottom for you to put the Game Boy into, a slot at the top that you could shove your games into, and then like this extra space in the back for manuals, batteries, whatever the hell you wanted to put in there. And it was, I don't know, roughly 2 inches thick, maybe 3 inches thick when you expanded the whole back. Had like these Velcro folded lids for each of the compartments, and then this like shoestring. It wasn't actually shoestring. It was probably closer to a corded rope, but like shoestring with strap that you put over your shoulder and hung it there like a messenger bag. But the way it looked, it was basically a little kid running around with a purse for his Game Boy. And it's like, if I was the age I am now, like, that thing looks fucking ridiculous, so why would I wear it on? But when you're like 4 through 10, you have no fucking shame. It's like, look at me, I'm carrying my Game Boy around in this fly little thing.
Yeah, I don't remember. I must have had some sort of carrier because I had the Game Boy and lots of games.
Yeah. Well, you probably had some type of carrier, yeah.
Or I just had them in a backpack or something.
Yeah. Well, that's what I usually do. Like, in my backpack, I just have, like, the front pocket has all my DS and 3DS games loaded up in there. Because they're so tiny and I can just fit them in there. But, like, I don't know, hard shell cases are definitely the better cases to have.
Yeah. Well, especially since, like, the analog sticks now kind of stick out.
Yeah.
And, I know, like, with Switch, I was putting it in, like, my computer bag for a while, and it totally screwed up the analog sticks. So then I got a hard case and, fixed the Joy-Cons, got a hard case, and it was fine.
Yeah, actually, let me see if I can find a picture of this bag that I'm talking about. We have the internet. The internet probably has it.
I'm going to need to take a 5-minute break in just a bit.
Okay.
I don't know the stamina of you young kids. The young whippersnappers.
Oh boy, oh man, you could actually buy it on eBay for like $20 too. But I did find a picture. Let me open a new tab and put it on here.
Why is nobody on here? Did you tweet this out?
It auto tweets, but to the Vomitorium one, so I probably forgot to retweet it.
Oh.
There we go. That's the case I'm talking about. The thing is basically a purse. It'll show on the thing in like a minute.
Pokemon on it?
Yeah.
Is that Pikachu?
Oh, hey, I remember that.
Yeah, it's the exact one that I have. I still have it, too. It's in one of my boxes. It doesn't have the strap anymore. That thing broke, like, ages ago. But I carried everything in it. It still has all my games in there.
Didn't tweet. No tweets.
Yeah, I'm convinced that any of those that do still have the strap, it's strictly because the person didn't use it at all.
I don't know. The strap itself was holding up fine during use. I think it was a dog that killed that strap, and I just eventually took it off. Because it had a metal bit at the bottom for holding it on, right? And I don't even think that the... because I think it was Buster. You remember Buster, right? Buck?
Yeah.
That little piece of shit. I don't even think it was the rope. I don't think he tore through it. He bent the metal bit to a point where it was cracking because he was chewing on it. It would eventually the metal would loosen some at the end, so it wouldn't stay shut. It was like one of those kind of like pressure ones, and I had to keep like bending it back into shape and stuff like that. But it was still usable for a long time until that dog got to it. But I actually used it. I carried it with me, like, fucking everywhere. And, yeah.
What do you like better, the Twitch link or the YouTube link?
Oh, I'm honestly indifferent.
I mean, I'll put both, but whatever at last is the one that's gonna.
Yeah, like it always, whenever it does the tweet, the D Live tweet gets erased because it just puts it up as the link. And since I just by default have D Live in that order.
I'm just putting YouTube and Twitch. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I think Twitch typically tends to be better, just because YouTube with Restream sometimes just craps out, and we'll lose the chats. But I don't think we ever have that problem with... No, it looks like it's still working fine, but with Twitch. Twitch has never crapped out with Restream so far.
Yeah. Looks good to me. Alright, I tweeted it.
Okay.
Hey, there's Mallet.
Yep.
On Twitch. Yeah. What do you know? That worked. That worked quickly. I think he joined before I tweeted that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
You tell him.
It's just a timing thing.
Yeah. He said that to me.
Yeah, so we did have another thing that I had planned. Who's watched Cobra Kai?
Oh yeah, I've seen the 2 seasons.
And we all know that Netflix had picked it up because YouTube.
I actually didn't even see it until it started. It was on Netflix.
Yeah, it's because YouTube Red was kind of a failed experiment in many ways.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna pay for it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was a good idea for people who wanted it. People are like, I don't want to watch ads, but I still want to support people, so I'll pay the premium service to not watch ads. I know a lot of people who did that just for that, and also because it's now becoming YouTube Music. They're getting rid of Google Play, but it gave you the Google Music subscription with your YouTube Red. So a lot of people saw the value, and then they started adding shows on top of it. But yeah, I wasn't going to pay for it either. I sailed the high seas to watch it originally. But yeah, it's on Netflix now. They picked it up, and they just confirmed the release date for the new season, and that season 4 has already been renewed.
Cool.
But January 8th is when we get it, which is late, but better than never, honestly.
Yeah. And I know they've already finished filming it. I mean, they could have released it if they wanted to, but
yeah. Well,
wanted to give.
I'm assuming the reason they're doing it is they're trying to find a schedule for it, right? Because Netflix releases their same shows at the same time of year every single year once they get it running. YouTube Red was doing the same thing. Originally, Cobra Kai was releasing in April, and it released in April both seasons that it did it. Then obviously there was all this rights problems and YouTube Red dying as a program and stuff like that. So I'm guessing Netflix is deciding January is going to be the release schedule for Cobra Kai for as long as they continue to support it.
Yeah, I think they wanted to give seasons 1 and 2 a bit of time to find an audience as well.
Yeah. Or for the audience to find it, because a lot of people may not notice that the thing that they watched on YouTube Red is now on Netflix and stuff like that.
Yeah, they want to give it time to promote it.
Because it clearly already had a huge audience, to the point that they were selling the first 2 seasons in Walmarts.
Huh?
Yeah. And you don't really see a lot of online shows doing that.
I heard from people who watched it that it was great, but I was like, how good could it really be?
Oh, dude, it was great.
Yeah, and then I watched it on Netflix. I was like, oh, that's how good it could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was sold on it immediately because I'm a big fan of the Karate Kid franchise. Even though, like, the later ones just are wacky as all fuck, but I still unironically like them. Even the next Karate Kid was pretty good.
Yeah, like I liked the first one, but then they just kind of went downhill, like some franchises tend to do. So I wasn't really all that hyped about it, but it was good. I thought it was a little cheesy. I mean, I really wasn't expecting Johnny to be the main character, for one thing. Even though it was called Cobra Kai. And there was some cheesiness, like, I don't think this spoils anything. At one point they have a fight in Johnny's apartment, and it's like, really? Like, it was all like over a misunderstanding. It's like, just talk. Like, why are these guys like doing karate and like destroying his TV and shit? It's like, that was kind of a dumb scene. I
kind of like the scene where they were talking about cheesy, right? Is when they have a fight at Daniel's house, and his wife comes up and just hoses them off, and just stops the fight before it even really gets started. But I like that because it feels like the Karate Kid in that way. Like it's better. I would even say it's probably better than the original Karate Kid, the show. And that's kind of somebody who's a fan of the series. Mm-hmm. But arguably it is better. But it still has like the spirit of the series by including that cheesy stuff here and there. Because it really was a cheesy franchise. There were some good heartwarming moments in it, and there were some good lessons and stuff, but it was pretty cheesy. Like, they even go back over some of the cheesy stuff from the first one in the flashbacks when Johnny's trying to make it look like Daniel was the bad guy, and he was like pranking him and stuff, like at the dance, and the whole bathroom scene where he like dumps the stuff over the shower stall and everything like that, or the bathroom stall. He was dressed as a shower. But like there was a lot of really cheesy stuff.
Yeah, well, it is interesting to look at that through the eyes of the quote unquote villain, and you can sort of understand why he kind of, because you never think that you're the bad guy in your own life.
Yeah,
I could understand.
And really, none of them were bad guys except for what's his face. God, what the dude who ran Cobra Kai, who shows back up in season 2.
Creed.
Yeah,
What was
Creed.
his name? Was it Creed?
I think it was Creed.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like honestly the only real bad guy in the story.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, even bullies in school aren't really bad guys. They're kids. A lot of them don't even know better. Maybe they'll grow up to be bad guys in life, but a lot of them could have like bad home lives and stuff like this. If even as a kid, I didn't think he was a bad guy. I figured like, oh, this is just kid stuff. This is what people do.
Crease.
That's it. Crease. Yeah, this is like what kids do. From like grade school up to high school, it's kid stuff. So, and this is the typical '80s bully character. So,
yeah.
But then Kreese is actually a bad guy because you realize it's like the second they show up to Cobra Kai and the way he's talking to all of his students, and then the way like he kind of pressures them into it. He wants to fight Miyagi and stuff like that. He's like, no, let's tournament. This will solve the problem. We'll have a truce until then. Like, Kreese is the real bad guy, and I like that there's kind of bringing that back, too. Like, throughout the second season, you kind of realize, it's like, yeah, he's still the real bad guy here. I know it.
Yeah.
I think the way I like it is it kind of reflects the way I've always seen the series. Because it's not a story about good versus bad, it's a story about personal development. And all the Karate Kids are stories about personal development. And I think that's probably why the second and third one kind of fall off for a lot of people. And a lot of the writing, too, is they don't know how to continue to develop this character without setting him back some. But the whole theme is that character development never ends in your life, which is kind of a theme in martial arts, right? It's a way of life. It never actually stops. And I feel the Cobra Kai does a better job of following up that than either of the two movies centered around Daniel afterwards did. And that it's a continuous journey. And you see that, and it's Johnny fell off the journey. Right? He stopped doing martial arts and stuff like that. And this is him getting back on the horse, and that's why his development can pick up, and he's the more interesting character here. But it definitely follows the themes of the original movie perfectly, and I think that's what I like about the show.
Yeah, and I mean, Daniel's not a 100% good guy. He's definitely flawed. He's got a lot of, he makes a lot of assumptions and kind of leaps before he looks or whatever. And then I thought the story with Tommy was really good because they're in the original movie. Obviously, most of the Cobra Kai guys are all kind of cartoonish villains, but Johnny comes around to visit Tommy because he's got cancer, and they're they go to a bar, get in a fight, they relive their past and their buddies, and then obviously he dies and everything. That's kind of
the most ironic, like the comedic part of his death too, right? Is the last thing you see with him is being put into a body bag, and then there's that famous line from the Karate Kid where he's like, "Put him in a body bag." Yeah.
But it's funny because he was sort of one of the quintessential villain characters, and it's like, no, he's a real person. That was really good.
Yeah, but I like everything with the adults. I really like the kids as characters in general, but just sometimes the storytelling around them is not as good as it is with the adults. Miguel started out really good with his story.
Yeah.
It was very much the same as Daniel's story, but kind of flipped around just a tad bit, right? But he's in that same situation of like the single mom growing up, being in a bad apartment, not necessarily being new to the area, but his family culturally is new to the area, right? Because obviously his mom came from, I think it was like Honduras or something like that. So there's a lot of similarities that he is Daniel in this story, but he's being taken down a dark path accidentally instead of like a path of positive development.
Right. And of course, Johnny's son is kind of going the opposite way. learning from Daniel and turning his life around for the better.
Yeah. And those two characters are really interesting. The problem is, and I don't know, maybe it's the writers don't know how to write girls or development around girls. But aside from what's her name, Aisha, like the big black girl, who I think she's actually written very well. I like her as a character. She's entertaining. The actress that they picked for her actually pulls off the role really good. She has potential. But, like, Daniel's daughter is cringy almost any time that she's on screen. And that the girlfriend replacement that Miguel picks up is also cringy. And their fight at the end is the most cringe thing in the whole show. The rest of the stuff that's orchestrated in the climax fight is fine. But those two, it's like, why is this even a thing? It's catty and stuff, almost stereotypically catty, like not even the way that you'd expect real women to act.
Yeah. That was some of the criticism I had too, is that it's just, goes along with sort of a little bit of it was over the top or not quite believable, I guess. Yeah.
Like some of the cheesy stuff, it's cheesy in a way that you believe it between Daniel and Johnny. Right, like it's things that you don't see every day, but you wouldn't have a hard time believing that it happened if you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get to the point, like the cheesy stuff that happens with the kids, it feels like, and it's probably the case, written by somebody who's been so disconnected that they haven't been in high school in decades. So they don't even remember how high school kids actually act. Early on, it's not that bad, though. I don't know, maybe they had some younger consultants, maybe they were able to do some of the research. Guys are easier to write, I don't know. But, like, the interactions between, Johnny being a Gen Xer and Miguel being a Gen Z, and the whole technology thing, him not understanding social media and stuff, that actually seemed kind of on point for the modern generation. Like, early on...
Definitely exaggerated. I mean,
a little exaggerated, but it kind of felt a bit natural at the same time. But the more it gets involved in the high school stuff, the more disconnected it feels.
Say it again.
Well, so the more and more that they dive into the high school life part of it, the more and more disconnected the writing feels. Because to a certain level, the exaggeration feels like it's being played as a joke, and not less from the writers don't understand it. Like, there's not a disconnect there. But the more they get into it, the less and less it feels like it's being played as a joke, and more the writers are actually just disconnected from this point of life and can't write it very well.
Yeah. I thought Johnny, and I assume this was intentional, it felt like they plucked the character out of the 80s.
Yeah.
And put him in. Put him
that
in
was
modern
entirely
time.
intentional, especially with him still watching, like, what's that movie? Top Gun.
Oh, yeah.
Right, like, he still has that on. It's like his hero.
I don't think he had a cell phone, and definitely didn't have a computer, and it's like, how do you not have a computer?
Yeah. Well, he's a handyman, right? Like, that's what he does, just odd jobs and stuff. But then also, how do you do odd jobs and not have a computer in this day and age? How do you get connected to people, right? Nobody's got a phone book, you can't run an ad in there. And...
Wasn't he a cable repair guy or something? I mean, among other things. I guess he was a handyman.
Yeah, he was doing, like, handyman work and stuff. Like, and the lady's like, okay, put that TV up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And,
but, like, if he's going to be hooking up TVs, surely he must have had to look up how to do that on the internet.
Yeah, or something, right?
Something. I don't know.
Because he was in.
But yeah, I mean, clearly that was clearly that was kind of an in joke kind of a thing. Like, he's like bizarrely out of touch, like unbelievably out of touch.
Well, you saw his TV too. Like the first one that he had was like an old TV. It took him until Cobra Kai started being successful for him to replace it with like his new HD TV and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then Daniel comes in and breaks it.
Yeah. But it was playing for jokes. Like that level of cheesiness It didn't feel disconnected. It felt intentional. You know, it's just the high school life, especially the party, right? Where the Cobra Kai party at the lake. The party itself didn't feel disconnected. I've seen and know a lot of high schoolers that still in this day throw parties like that. But the party felt more like an 80s party just with modern people on their phones there than it did like a modern party that like Gen Z people I know would throw. And I feel like there's probably a lot of disconnect there.
They don't stand on benches and drink until one of them falls off?
Typically, no.
Or stools or whatever they were.
Though they do a lot of really stupid shit, but, I mean, what generation doesn't?
Yeah. I think I'm going to go get something to drink and take a 5-minute break, if you don't mind.
I'll carry on.
Yeah, it'll help with the cough. I'll be right back. I won't be long.
But it's a series that I have been enjoying. I hope, I really hope that disconnect doesn't become further and further into seasons 3 and 4. Just because it's kind of a slog to get through the young kid part. And that's even coming from somebody who is at a decade's disconnect from being in high school. But I'm also young enough that I know a lot of people that are in high school personally. But it's like, man, it's rough sometimes getting through the kids parts. I love the old people, you know, Johnny, Daniel, all that. I think what's her face, the actress who played Allie, I can't remember her name, but she's supposed to be coming back as well for this season. I don't know what that's about. Maybe to cause trouble between the fact that Johnny has been kind of warming up to Miguel's mom or something like that. Because obviously Daniel is a happily married man. I don't know. That the writing would get really cringy if they tried to do some type of love triangle thing with her. Like, I think I would probably just completely write the show off at that point. It wouldn't make sense to the character of Daniel. But I think things are supposed to be getting more tense. And they left you on a cliffhanger. I hated that about the show. I think we talked about this on one of the episodes already. I don't remember. But I hate it when a series leaves you on a hard cliffhanger. As in, like, whatever happened in that season was not resolved by the end of the season. And if there's a cliffhanger, it's just setting up for the plot line of the next season. Season 1 ended. There was the tournament. It was basically the same setup as the first movie. Some things were subverted. The tournament ended. Boom. Plotline done. Season 2 leaves you in the middle of a fight, just ends because somebody gets critically injured, and that's where it stops. Nothing's resolved. All it did was add more problems on top of things. I actually genuinely hate the way that Season 2 ends. But I was okay with it because Season 3 had already been confirmed before that. And I'm glad that Season 4 has already been confirmed, but that makes me kind of worried that the plot line might not end for this season. Like, it might leave me in the middle of another cliffhanger for a several season story arc. And I don't know how I feel about that beforehand. I don't know how I feel about that at all.
Cliffhangers do suck.
Yeah, like I've said before, I don't mind cliffhangers if the plot's wrapped up, right? Like if the cliffhanger is setting you up for the next story arc, that's fine, you know. But
yeah, it's just that there's too many who do the whole, let's tune in next season to see how this ends.
Yeah, because what happens if the next season never happens, right? Like, season 3 had already been confirmed, but then after the fact, it basically got canned to a degree because YouTube Red, as a program, just basically is not dead. So Netflix picked it up. But we had no idea that Netflix was going to pick it up at first, so as far as I knew, the show was dead in the water. So it's like, you left me on a cliffhanger for no reason? You never know if a show that's even been confirmed is actually going to go to completion. And I mean, at least I could say it's better with these series now that don't air on TV, right? And you get the whole season at once and can just binge through it because it's not taking up a time slot. Back in the day, a season could be confirmed, right? And then, boom, halfway through the season they stop it, even if the whole season's already been done, because they can't afford for it to be taking up the time slot. They're going to put something else there. Which is bullshit, but I'm glad, I guess, binge culture, just the on-demand release of series kind of solved that problem. It was a rare thing in the first place, but it could happen. It has happened. And now it probably won't. This is why TV sucks. And streaming services and the internet are completely replacing the old TV format. It's archaic. It needs to die.
Like, sometimes a show is doing okay and enough to afford its placement, but then a new show, like, beat out their bid for a certain time slot, and then the new time slot basically kills the show.
Sometimes they just don't even give them the new time slot. They just, like, cut it right there. Like, the season was supposed to go to, like, episode 60 or something like that, and they just cut it off at episode 54, halfway through the season. Because your animated show got outbid with a better deal, and Cartoon Network's like, nah, man, we don't need this highly successful Thundercat show because this new show is going to do better. Let's just cut it off at episode 54. Still a lot of people salty about that. Yeah, I'm trying to find something else to talk about. Those were the only things I had prepared. I thought they were going to take a little bit longer to talk about. See if we can find something else that's going on. I actually remembered something now. Apparently, beyond belief, the Monster Hunter movie is still coming out this year. 2 theaters.
I was kind of hoping that's the one that would die.
Yeah, I wanted it to get canceled too. Because we need another movie where frickin' Mila Jovovich is kind of injected as a Mary Sue into a beloved Capcom franchise.
I would bet money on the fact that Tony Jaa's character as the hunter is going to die.
Maybe, I don't know. I still find it weird that Monster Hunter, from what I heard, is going to be an isekai. Like, why, oh why, does a character need to be injected into the Monster Hunter world? Why can't they just be from it?
I think it's even worse than a traditional isekai either, because it's, from what I've seen, it's basically jumping back and forth. But the only, like, environment for either side so far seems to be desert.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why this movie's a thing. I don't know why the rights went to Constantin Studios. I'm guessing they just have a deal with Capcom ever since the Resident Evil days, and that's why they've been having their live-action movies.
They have to, which is why I never want a Devil May Cry movie to ever happen.
Oh my god, a Devil May Cry movie better not happen as long as Constantin is still in charge. Or else, what? We're gonna get Mila Jovovich as Lady? Well, actually, she would probably fit that role okay. I could
probably
see
fit that okay, but they'd probably make her a new character who's like the daughter of a demon even more powerful than Sparta.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's kind of like, and I don't know, we talked about this before, right, Marsupial? Or I think I told you, the only reason the character Alice from Resident Evil even exists is because the owner of Constantin Studios / the director is the husband of Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're pulling the same thing with Monster Hunter now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do that a lot with movies. Like, I mean, Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. I don't think that was a character in the TV show. They had to have a main character instead of a team.
Yeah.
What's up with this? I saw this and then I forgot to follow up. Is there another Dragon Quest movie?
Is there?
Something?
I don't know. Let me look into that. I'm
like.
I think I heard there was an anime in the work.
I watched the Dragon Quest Our Story movie, which was really good. I liked it. Or Your Story, whatever.
I still haven't watched it.
Then I saw.
You kept telling me to as well, but I don't know. It's hard for me to watch anything because I just get wrapped up in stuff. I need to set myself a reminder. But let me look.
In the reviewer, it says Netflix's Dragon Quest movie is a lovely journey to a stupid destination.
Oh yeah, I actually had a friend who suffered through that.
So yeah, what was
thing.
it? Square Enix. Let me see. Tweeted something about it.
Yeah, there's well, they announced Your Story 2 back in February, apparently.
Okay.
Which will release sometime in 2022.
I have to admit, I didn't like the ending of Your Story. It was dumb. Quite dumb. But other than the ending, it was good. I had to watch that again. Oh wait, okay. October 1st. Who's excited to watch the new Dragon Quest anime this weekend? Launching this weekend. The series premiere of Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai on Hulu, Crunchyroll, and Anime Digital Network.
They're remaking that? Or are they redubbing it?
Remaking.
Oh, okay.
They announced that a while ago.
I did not know that. Well, because there was an old one, which is what Dai was the main character from. A lot of people didn't know who that was because that he's from the old Dragon Quest anime. I didn't know they were remaking it.
Is that going to be where else other than Hulu and Crunchyroll?
Yeah, I think that was the main reason Dai showed up in Jump Force.
Yeah. You and I talked about this before. Because you didn't know who Dai was at first.
Yeah, and then a little while later they announced the remaking the anime, so I figured, okay, that's why they added that character.
I liked the anime. It was pretty good. Which is one of the reasons why I should be watching Your Story, because I think it was the same director who ran the project back then. But I don't know. I liked it better than I liked Dragon Quest After 4, because I only really liked 1 through 4. I was told, though... I'm eating fries. I was told that by a lot of people that Dragon Quest 8 is their favorite. And my problem was I just did not care for 5, 6, or 7, but I haven't played past 7. And a lot of people, like, they say, oh no, 8's the best, 8's the best. So I'll probably pick it back up starting with 8 and see if I like the later ones. I have more respect for Dragon Quest than I have against their contemporary, which I used to be a big fan from, though. And that's Final Fantasy. But that's because Final Fantasy has no idea what its identity is anymore. And Dragon Quest never lost its identity for the most part. Like, it's still the same game. The story varies, and the story was my main problem with 5, 6, and 7. But other than that, like, the gameplay mechanics are still roughly the same. It's still like Toriyama art, and he does influence the story direction and stuff like that. Dragon Quest has been Dragon Quest the entire time that it's been Dragon Quest. I can't say the same about, like, other Square and Enix related properties. But I'll definitely check out the Story of Dai. See if the new one's good.
Yeah, it looks like it is on Kick-Ass Anime. If you don't have Hulu.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I know plenty of places that it will be. Now,
yeah, it looks like episode 1 is available.
The legality of it, though.
I mean, you know, for anyone that's, you know, that would do such a horrible thing.
Arr.
Yeah. I'll have to watch that later. I'm sad that what's her name? Uzaki wants to hang out. Season 1 is over.
Oh yeah. Did you enjoy the whole season?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was really cute. It was funny. The last episode, or the lead up to the last episode was funny.
Yeah, that's one of those shows that because of I saw who picked it up, I'm only ever gonna watch the Japanese sub version of it, like the English subs, because Funimation picked it up, and you saw who was voicing Usagi, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like nope, that's a nope from me.
Yeah. What's her name again?
Monica.
I can't remember. Right. That's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
I might have to watch the first episode just to make fun of it.
Oh, where's another anime too? So I was thinking of.
It's fine in Japanese, definitely.
Oh, I love watching stuff in Japanese. Like, I need to get back to it, but I watched a couple seasons of Gintama, which is a show that I didn't know about until like a few years ago, and I've been meaning to watch it. But it was a contemporary to like Bleach when it came out, and it's only available in Japanese. There's hasn't been an English dub to it at all, and it's one of the best anime I've ever seen. I'm so sad it took me this long to start watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the premise, because it's a story about a guy who's a freelancer and has like he ends up with an apprentice, and I don't even know what to refer to Kagura as, but like a illegal alien. I don't know. Even as far as the fact that aliens have invaded Earth and are now living in society normally, she's kind of like the equivalent of an illegal foreigner. But he's got an apprentice and another helper. And they do, like, odd jobs that nobody else will pick up. And wacky hijinks and shenanigans happen. Like, oh, I'm also writing a story about a guy who takes odd jobs that nobody else will pick up, and wacky shenanigans and hijinks take place. Why is it taking me this so long to start this story?
Yeah.
But no, there's another anime thing I was thinking of. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh yeah, Yashahime starting soon. The follow-up to Inuyasha. Yeah. Which I've talked about probably 10 casts ago now. For people who weren't listening back then, Yashahime, which obviously the Yasha part is the half-demon, is the Yashahime meets half-demon princess. And it is the story of primarily Sesshomaru's daughters, who would be half-demons, because he... Oh god, they did not say who the mother is, but I highly suspect it was Rin, and that's going to be controversial to a lot of people, despite the fact that she would definitely be an adult by now. But obviously his daughters are not full demons like himself. They're half demons like Inuyasha was. And it's going to be, they're going to be, I think 10, 12-year-olds somewhere around there. It's going to be them as like... I think 12 as like preteens, and they've been separated for so many years of their life. His two daughters are twins. One of them was raised in the demon, or like the past, right, where they are with the Sesshomaru and stuff, and the other daughter got separated through a tunnel that works like the well in Inuyasha, and they're raised by Kagome's brother's family. So that's how she's raised. And like 10 years later, she's brought back or something like that, and they end up meeting each other again, and they have to like find their parents or whatever. I think, I don't remember what the exact plot is. I read this like a couple months ago. But they're also joined by a quarter demon, which is Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter. So it's going to be the three of them adventuring around feudal Japan. Not based off of a manga. The only sketchy part I have about it is that Rumiko Takahashi is only involved in character design, not writing the series. Though she is kind of busy working on... I think Mao is what she's working on right now. I think that's getting continued. So it's not like she has time to write a whole story. But the director of the old Inuyasha adaptation is the director and head writer of this series. So, you know, he seems to understand the story well enough to have adapted it in the first place. It might be able to go into a good direction. I'll have to watch a few episodes and see.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I see first episode premiered today or yesterday? Recently.
Yeah, I knew it was sometime this week. I just haven't been directly keeping up on it. I need to watch it. Because Rumiko Takahashi is... I wouldn't even say just my favorite mangaka or manga creator. Probably my favorite comic book creator. In general. She's a talent and a half, and a lot of my favorite stories came from, like, she also made Ranma 1/2, as well as Those Obnoxious Aliens, or for people who've never heard it translated, Urusei Yatsura, which is where Lum is from. I think everybody knows Lum, right? Green-haired space chick wearing a, like, cheetah print, or leopard print bikini. Oni horns. Shoots lightning at people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't the first time you told me.
Oh. She's like everywhere on the internet. But yeah, Takahashi is probably one of the most talented manga storytellers. And that's why I kind of wish that she was directly involved in the project more than just character design, but... even being influenced by her work, it might be good enough. I think if there's any other anime news. I know I heard of some other stuff recently. Since we're on the subject of anime.
What is this music?
Oh, this is probably Gaiet the Great King from Final Fantasy IV, and this is a remix. Let me actually see if I'm correct. If my freaking my mouse disappeared from my screen. Let's see. It is OC Remix number 1879, Final Fantasy IV, in the Land of the Dwarves, Gaiet, King of the Dwarves. I was right, yeah. I've heard that music enough, I should recognize it. I've
apparently there's rumors that One Punch Man Season 3 is looking for a different animation studio than even the second season had.
Now, that show was going through all kinds of trouble, right? Like, I thought it looked the greatest when Madhouse was doing it for Season 1, which is the same studio for Hellsing. But, after that, they had to go find another studio, and the quality wasn't as good, but it was still more than passable. I thought the show looked good in Season 2, just not as good. But now they have to find yet a third animation studio for another season. What's going on there?
Apparently people are hopeful that the source of this rumor is them trying to get Studio Madhouse back, and not just they had to look for a third studio.
I would prefer if Madhouse came back. Like, the first season for One Punch Man was phenomenal. Especially that final fight with him and, what's his name, Boros. But look, I have a lot of problem with modern anime. Not the fact that I don't still enjoy the stories, but I've noticed the quality of animation has improved in some areas, but has, like, dropped in many more areas, right? So you have less reusing of frames and animations as you used to. Like, go back and watch old Dragon Ball Z, and you'll see, like, certain sequences and poses happening over and over again. But they did it in a creative way to try to, like, disguise it and make the fights more impactful. Now you go, like, say, watch Dragon Ball Super, and you have an entire fight where it's just a bunch of ambient effects and the characters are barely moving, or you'll have, like, a character get smacked and then rotated on the screen, and it's actually just a still image that they're rotating in the computer several times and stuff like that. And it's, like, really a lazy animation by comparison.
Shooting star looks better than your professionally animated fight scene.
Yeah. But, I don't know. There's very few studios that really take it above and beyond anymore, and Studio Madhouse is one of them. So I would love them to come back for One Punch Man. Watch One Punch Man, Marsupial?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
What'd you think of it?
Yeah, it's very... I love it.
Okay.
Are there any new episodes? When was the last new episode?
No, that's what we were just talking about. Is we're stalled on Season 3. They're looking for a new studio.
Oh, okay.
And I thought Season 2 was still pretty good, though.
So have they released any of Season 3?
No. There's no Season 3 yet.
I don't remember. It's been a while, so I don't remember what the last episode was.
The last episode... One Punch Man actually kind of ended on one of those cliffhangers that I hate. Where, which this is a lot more common for, and probably even more accessible for anime than it is for, say, a live-action TV series or whatever, something that's made for TV first and not an adaptation. But with anime, you often get this the plot was not resolved this season. It'll have to be resolved next season for an arc, because that's just the way the manga left them off, and they couldn't squeeze it enough to get everything in or anything like that. But they left you off with what's his name?
I remember he beat that alien, right?
Yeah. Well, season 1 he beat Boros at the end.
Okay.
Which is the one-eye alien. That was the end of season 1. And then season 2 starts the Monster Society arc. Have you seen any of season 2?
Huh?
Have you seen any of season 2?
Nope.
Okay.
I lost you, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Or you lost me. So what happened in season 2? Maybe I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you probably haven't. So season 2 is the Monster Society arc, where the Hero Association is dealing with this alternate association, the Monster Association, where there's like a monster king who's got these monster cells that he's feeding to people, turning them into monsters and sicking them off against the heroes and stuff. But there's also Garu, I believe is his name, right? Garu the monster, and he's a human who's trying to be a monster because he idolizes monsters. He hates how in TV shows the heroes always wins. Like, why can't the monster win for once? And he was always wanted to be the monster as a kid growing up, so he lives his life like a monster, as a wild man and stuff. He lives in a shack in the middle of nowhere, and
so he's a typical edgelord.
Yeah, but he's also a student of what's his face, Silver Fang, the martial arts dude, right? And the season ends where they were a whole group of A-list heroes were going after Garu himself, by themselves. Just I think there was 5 of them, and Garu ends up beating them. But then Silver Fang and his brother Boom, is it Boom or Bomb? It's something like that. He does a similar martial arts style. Ends up countering him, and they're struggling to beat him, even though he's already kind of injured, and Genos shows up. And then it's easily going in the side of the hero's favor when Genos shows up, and then they have to fight. He gets carried away because a giant centipede attacks town. And that's where they end this season, right there, in the middle of that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen season 2.
Oh yeah, dude, go watch season 2. Yeah, it's good. But it's done by a different animation studio.
Oh.
And you can kind of tell, they try to match as much as they can, but you can tell it's a slightly lower quality. And they're looking for another studio now. But Buck mentioned, I am very, very much hoping that it's just them trying to get back to Studio Madhouse, who did season 1.
Yeah.
So far, the rumor is just that. There's nothing about why they're looking for a new studio or who they're looking at.
There's very few good studios these days for action. A lot of shows, I watched a little bit of Uzaki. It's perfectly fine animation for what's in there because it's not an action show. So when you have her that scene with her diving into the bush, and it's just animated speed lines going off to the side and stuff like that. It's perfectly fine for what it's doing because it accentuates the comedy. But I don't know. I do hope they get Madhouse back. I happen to know where the story's going, though, because I've read ahead. That's the one thing about manga and anime that's both good and bad. And it's the fact that you can get ahead. it's bad because if you read ahead, you're like, man, I want to see this animated, but it's going to take me forever before I get a chance to. But it's good because unlike here in the West, most comic properties, if you get like an animation or something, it's not a direct adaptation of anything, right? It's something that's kind of like similar to it, but it's also like just whatever the team wrote. While with anime, it's usually, with some exceptions, as close to a direct adaptation of the story as you're going to get. And I think that's partially because in Japan, they have a lot more respect for the intellectual property, or like the creator itself and the work that they put into it, than we have here in like America. Because we can be very honest too, none of these studios in America give a shit about the creator of whatever thing they're licensed to. They're like, okay, we got your property, the character's all that matter, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want with it.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad some of them respect the creators too much. Tell them you're drunk, go home.
Like, and then we have the creator of Hellboy who disrespects his own property.
Oh yeah, I feel like there's a few creators like that here. Like I've ran about Scott Pilgrim several times. I think Brian Lee O'Malley disrespects Scott Pilgrim because he signed off on a lot of the changes for the movie, and for it to be a single movie. Like, I think that was disrespect to his own property. There's no way you could cram those 6 books into one movie. But what's Hellboy? That's Mignola, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had a lot of disrespect for his property.
Dude already made his character look like Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, but that's a stylistic thing, you know.
Well, yeah, but it looks really awkward since 90% of the action shots are him jumping.
I actually really like the art of Hellboy. I think it works for the story that it's being told. Like, if you try to use that art in another story, it would be awful. Depending on what the story is. I mean, you could tell another story that's similar to the type of story that Hellboy is, and it could work, but most stories you wouldn't be able to use that art in. But it's kind of like with Doug Tenaple, right? With Earthworm Jim. The art works for the story that you're telling. But you wouldn't necessarily want, like, Superman drawn like that. Oh man, could you imagine like a Mike Mignola Superman story? Like he drawn the whole thing, and it just looks like people from Hellboy. That'd be crazy.
I don't think I can imagine it.
Think Johnny Bravo, but slightly closer to Elvis and wearing a Superman costume.
That Clark Kent. I'm actually surprised. Like, I'm sure there's been like a one-off, what-if story and stuff, but I'm surprised that in especially today's age and how accepting everybody is, that there isn't like one of the 52 Supermen in the 52 worlds isn't like an obese, body-positive Superman. With like an obese body.
I thought you were gonna say you were surprised that during Bendis's run he didn't get a dad bod.
I'm a little surprised on that too. Although it wouldn't make sense. Like that's the problem. I'm surprised it hasn't happened, but it wouldn't make sense because how could Superman ever get fat, right? With his alien physiology and the fact that he can now irrationally sustain his entire system off of sunlight. How does that even work? Right? There's no nutritional value there.
How does a hybrid of two alien species who have the exact same lifespan cause a hybrid offspring who ages like 15 years in 3 years?
Oh, well, that reason was because of a warp in space, but it's still a bad storytelling mechanism. Also, and this is the problem with the suspension of disbelief in a lot of these things, right? Is the more scientific they try to be with some of these characters' powers, the worse it gets, right? Like, I don't like you trying to explain Superman's powers with science. If it was magic, I wouldn't care. Because you're like, oh, well, it's magic, right? It can defy physics because it's magic. But the second you try to make things work in physics, you're like, well, not only how does Superman, like, propel himself in flight, right? How does he lift and everything? But how does he break the light speed barrier if it's all just raw, normal physics?
Yeah, as opposed to the Flash, who has, the Speed Force that helps him do that.
Which is supposed to be scientific, but it's something that's beyond what we know of physics, so it's effectively magic, right? Yeah. It's something from a higher dimensional plane.
Yeah, Superman has no Speed Force.
Yeah. It's like, or I think the character I hate the most is Iron Man out of all like comic characters, because he's supposed to be like the most realistic character in Marvel's area, but it's like, okay, if he was as realistic as he is, he would have snapped his own neck from G-forces or killed himself in flight as Iron Man a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you're in a suit doesn't mean you can take a landing from,
Yeah.
Mile up and live.
I think Iron Man's the worst because he's like entirely scientific. I like Doom. Dr. Doom is like as strong as the Incredible Hulk with his suit, but that's because like he even tells you his suit is not all technology. There's like a mixture of sorcery in there. It's like, okay, I can believe that.
Mm-hmm. And they always screw up the Juggernaut in the X-Men. He's supposed to be magic too. He's not a mutant.
He's an avatar of Sidorak.
Yeah. He has the magic gem or something that makes him.
It's like there's a red jewel, like a gem inside of him. Yeah.
It's just magic.
But I'm fine with that. Magic's great. You don't have to suspend your disbelief because you're like, oh well, it's magic. Okay. I understand that now.
Oh, nothing in Harry Potter makes any sense. That's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make any physical sense because they just outright tell you it's magic. It's like, okay, cool. Well, there are rules to the magic. It's a hard magic system. There's things magic can and can't do. Or technically magic could do everything, but there's various ways on how you have to perform the magic to get it to do the thing you want it to do. So there are rules, but it's its own rule system that doesn't have to make sense to normal life. So that's great. Yeah. And people need to steer clear of trying to make their fantasy more sci-fi than it is. Like, I have a story I'm writing that's heavily Final Fantasy-esque, right? Where there's some elements of science fiction, but it's more fantasy than not. And even the more scientific stuff is all powered by magic. It's just like a way for technology to use the magic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So though, if you have an airship that's just propelled through the air with nothing but like magic, you're like, okay, whatever. It doesn't have to make sense. It can effectively be lighter than air.
Yeah, it's a Flintstone.
Yeah, or something similar like that. Yeah.
I sometimes wonder, people who say that Final Fantasy IV is the best one, have they actually played it all the way?
I'd never say 4 is the best. It's my favorite, for sure, but it's mostly the story. I really like the story. I think Final Fantasy VI is objectively the best Final Fantasy.
That's my favorite, yeah.
But I'm also like I'm at the point that I can separate my subjective opinion from finding measurements to make something more objective. So while I like 4 the best, I think 6 is just a better game.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of various game series, I watched a video by Carlo this morning about the new Paper Mario game.
Oh yeah?
Apparently is very contentious.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of interest in it because from what I saw, it kind of just looked like the previous Paper Mario games that I had no interest in.
Yeah.
But some people said that it was better. But I don't know.
Yeah. His video is about how he's a bit of a critic because he's a very big fan of Thousand Year Door, and they've never really gone back to that formula.
Yeah, because I like Paper Mario 1 and 2. Both of those were great games.
Yeah. And so but he was just kind of complaining that what's funny is he's basically complaining that whenever he has a discussion about it on Twitter specifically, it just gets into a really nasty back and forth where people accuse him of, having nostalgia glasses and not liking new things and all this stuff. And he's like, no, it's just objectively not as good.
Yeah, for some good reasons, right? Like looking at a Sticker Star and Color Splash, one of the things that makes it awful is the resource system of how you have to do the combat, and that there are things that can never be replenished, so it completely disincentivizes you of engaging in combat when you don't need to, right? And grinding is pointless in those games too. So it kind of defeats the whole system purpose.
The only reason that you engage in combat at all is to make combat easier.
Yeah.
But if you can just skip all the combat and there's no real point to it.
Yeah, to get more cards, but all the best cards you find from chests anyway, so if you just skip the combat, store up all the good cards and then save them for the final bosses, or even just the boss at the level, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I commented on his thing because he was talking about how, what I just said, and I was like, well, welcome to, Comicsgate, Gamergate, and Fandom Menace, and
all that stuff.
All these fandoms of people who are like, no, the new stuff is objectively worse than the old stuff. It could have been better, but no, it's actually worse. I'm not afraid of new things. They're better.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't think I would have really disliked Super Paper Mario. Because it even had the word super in front of it, like it was trying to be something different. If it was a spin-off, and that story didn't affect the world that was being built from the Paper Mario franchise. Because it's okay, I'm enjoying it for what it is, but then the next Paper Mario that comes out will be more like Thousand Year Door, and then that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked Super Paper Mario. It was fun. But it was definitely different. It was more of a classic Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers game, just with a twist where you can turn it. But it had nothing to do. I mean, the others were RPGs basically.
Yeah, and it technically was an RPG. There was leveling and stuff like that. Different enemies did take different amount of health, so if you weren't leveling up at the right rate, you might have to jump on an enemy more than once to kill it or something like that. But I guess it really didn't affect the game too much. Yeah. And I also missed the partners, right? The cool thing about the first 2 Paper Marios were that each of the partners all had their own little personality involved with also their movesets and stuff like that. And in Super Paper Mario, you just got these little pixel things that had no personality and were just tools for you to use. It's a very bland world. I mean, the point to that was supposed to be that it was a bland world because all the dimensions were being destroyed and stuff like that. You had to fix things. But the problem was it set up this precedent that, like, you want to talk about bland worlds, literally both of the games after that were intentionally bland worlds that you had to, like, fill back up to fix it. As opposed to the really rich and diverse world of the first two Paper Mario games.
Right.
It's like, I don't think...
I guess in this new one, it's not quite like that, but you have to just fill holes with confetti.
Fill holes with confetti. Oh, yeah, that sounds fun.
But the battle system is really strange.
Oh, yeah. Does it use resources? Like, in the same way?
The main mechanic is when you go into a battle, you go into an arena with concentric circles, and you have to move and shift the enemies so that they're either in a line or in a group so that you can attack them all at once. So you like shift the enemies around. You can turn the circles or shift them this way or that way. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Every battle is like. And then the boss battles, it's the opposite. The boss is in the middle, and you have to shift the circles so that you can navigate through like a maze to get to the middle.
I don't know. I mean, that definitely sounds creative. I don't know if I'd want it in a Paper Mario game.
Yeah, it's very strange. But the big complaint that I see, and I haven't played it yet, but the big complaint I can see is that the bosses are all incredibly uncreative. It's basically office supplies.
Oh, okay.
One of the bosses is a box of colored pencils, and one of them is like a stapler.
Yeah, because this is the whole, the main bad guy is folding people into origami, right? That was like the whole theme of this, like everybody's joining a cult of the origami or something like that.
I guess so. I don't know what the office supplies have to do with that.
I don't either.
You fight a big, like, mummy-looking character that's made out of rubber bands.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, as opposed to, say, the original Paper Mario,
and if
right?
you stay out of line, they, like, paperclip you into that shape permanently.
I guess.
Yeah. Which I don't get why paper folding would suddenly be a contentious thing if this is still the same world. Because Mario folded himself into, like, planes and boats and stuff back in Thousand Year Door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's like... I don't know, I haven't played it, but I don't know how much the origami has to do with the story, except that's... I don't know. I know, like, Bowser gets folded up.
Yeah. But, like, it's as opposed to, like, say, how bosses were in the first Paper Mario, right? Every single boss, when you encounter them, was, like, this theatrical spectacle, right? Like, even the first, the prologue boss, when you fight the, like, King Goomba, and he's in his tower and stuff, and you have to, like, get him down, or... probably, like, the coolest boss was when you're scaling the castle for the Koopa brothers, the ninja team. Yeah, for like the ninja team, and they're like this Power Ranger based crew, but they're trying to like disguise things. So you finally walk into the tower, and there's this giant parade float Bowser mecha in front of you, and you're like, what? I'm not fighting Bowser this early, and it turns out it's just like them inside their like mecha that they made, and you destroy that and go into the actual boss fight with them. But like every fight was a spectacle in the original Paper Mario. For the most part, I think some of the bosses, by comparison to Thousand Year Door, were a little less spectacular, but they were still good, and the rest of the game was even more so than the original Paper Mario in many ways, making the game itself more spectacular.
Well, I don't understand why, the creator said something about the fact that they're not allowed to create new characters or something like that. Like they had an interview that was very contentious because they were like, we can't create new characters, and that was why they had office supplies as the bosses. Was this some sort of edict from up on high that the Mario Brothers universe is set, or I don't understand.
Yeah, because we go back, and I guess this might be the case since Sticker Star, because a lot of Sticker Star was just like bland characters, and Color Splash was like too. Like all the Toads looked the same. There weren't like a bunch of variations of Toads and stuff. But before that, everything was original, even if it was just like a variation of something that already existed, right? Like Toad Town was completely filled with a bunch of different Toads that have different variations to them and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of like original enemies and everything. And then especially when you get to Super Paper Mario, like all the pixels and stuff like that were all original creations for the game.
Yeah. I don't know when this happened, but apparently at some point an edict came down that said, nope, you can only use what's already existing in the universe.
Man, that sounds like needlessly restrictive. Create.
Yeah, I don't understand that. They've never really fully explained that. Like, they never explained where that came from or why. I'm only kind of guessing that it was some sort of edict.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think about like who it would come from, because as far as I know, even though he's not like the director of the whole Mario franchise or anything like that, because you know how like Nintendo's got different directors for each division, and there's like a Numa who's the director for Zelda and stuff like that. Miyamoto is not the director of the Mario division, but he kind of still supersedes I think he even supersedes the Zelda division too. He kind of like just supersedes all these divisions, since he was actively involved in the creation of all these games back then. I don't think it would have came from him, because Miyamoto's like a really pro-creation guy, right? Like he's always like loved other people's creations and stuff like that. I'm thinking it had to come somewhere else from the board. I don't even think it would be the directors. It was probably the board of directors, right? Maybe they would think it confuses people to have new characters. I don't know.
No. There's no limitation like that on Zelda. I mean, look at in Age of Calamity. They've got that new little mini baby guardian, egg guardian thing.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Or even Breath of the Wild, period, right? Like, look at all the new stuff that was added just for that game.
Yeah. Yeah, Guardians in general.
But you also don't have that limitation on the main Mario games, because look at how much stuff was made for Odyssey. I think it was probably just because Paper Mario is technically a spin-off series. It's a lower level.
Yeah. You'd think they could borrow stuff from Odyssey.
Yeah.
Like those rabbit enemies, the bosses, I forget what they call it, or something.
Yeah.
Rules, I think.
What was that? Come again?
I think the rabbits are called the Broodals.
The Broodals?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds right, yeah. Well, I think they probably can use them, though, because they said they're not allowed to make new characters, but that would mean anything that exists in Mario would still be fair game, right? Or at least, from what little is said there might be more restrictions that we don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't know why you restrict them.
It was a really strange answer in an interview, and was never followed up on.
At the very least, stuff from old Paper Mario games would still be available.
Maybe they're putting that on different departments now too, because it's been a while since the last Mario and Luigi. The first game was Superstar Saga, so I just refer to the whole franchise as the Mario and Luigi Saga. But the Mario and Luigi games, the RPGs that they have. And the last one, I think, was Dream Team, where they went into Luigi's dreams. And that was not a very creative game aside from mechanics. Like, a lot of the assets are like enemies and stuff were for the most part just reused from previous parts of the series. I think maybe the final boss was the only thing that was original. It's been a while, I don't even remember what the final boss was. But it was not a very creative game, other than the fact that there's a core mechanic of going into his dreams and being able to mess with Luigi from outside, and it would affect the dream on the inside. That might be why these games are the way they are, because they're having like needless limitations and they're having to try to be creative within them.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Especially, like, maybe they're jealous. There might be somebody who's jealous. I don't know who, but, like, I know me personally, some of my favorite, like, Mario characters and creations came from the first two Paper Mario games. And aren't necessarily from, like, older Mario stuff. I don't know.
It's a mystery.
Well, I know a certain penguin novelist who might be able to solve that mystery. You can find him in Paper Mario.
What?
Yeah, there was. You don't remember the original Paper Mario when you get to the Bumpty Village or whatever, the Penguin Village, and there's like this a whole red herring mystery going on where they're looking for the novelist who writes these mysteries, and it turns out that he just like got too cold and frozen inside his house the whole time. So you're the one framed for his murder.
I don't think I got that far. I never.
And then I believe he shows back up in the second one when there's like this murder on the Orient Express thing going on, and he still thinks, or no, it wasn't the author, it was the detective that blamed you. Shows back up, and he still thinks you're Luigi because he thought you were Luigi the whole time, not Mario. Which means he's not actually a very good detective. I mean, they kind of look alike, but I think if you're familiar a denizen of Mushroom Kingdom, you should be able to tell the difference between which Mario brother is which by this point.
Yeah, I would think so.
Especially because like they always wear the same thing all the time, so even if you've never seen them in person, and like one of the descriptions is one's taller than the other, well, you don't have the other one next to them to like tell. It's like, well, you know, Mario's always wearing red and Luigi's always wearing green, so if you happen to meet one that's wearing red, I'm pretty sure that's Mario. I don't know. There's a weird thing about Mario, because you know, and what's his name? Who's the director of the Mario series? Because it was in an interview with him. It was not Miyamoto, it's the other guy. No, the other dude. Whatever, I'll find it later. I'm not going to dig too much for this. But he said in an interview that there's no canon to Mario. Like, that's not the way that Mario works. He's kind of like this old-fashioned Herculean-style hero where everything about Mario from every game is true about Mario. Like, everything's canon, but there is no, like, canonical storyline. So if something is true about Mario here, it has to be true about Mario there. He's like he's an icon character, right? So, unless a game in its story states that it directly follows another one, no games are directly connected to each other.
Yeah. What else is happening?
I don't know. Alright, for me it's been a pretty quiet week, other than the fact that Genshin Impact came out. I was digging for news just before we started to see if I could fill in the gap.
So you think, like I said, I've only played that for 5 or 10 minutes. I got to like the first shrine or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got one companion character.
Oh, you met Amber. That was the first girl that you meet.
Sorry, I froze up again.
Oh, I said you met Amber, the first girl that you meet.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I like her. She's a good character.
And still kind of fiddling with the controls and getting used to it, but you think I should keep playing?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've been playing a lot of that game, especially because I haven't necessarily been home a lot either. Like yesterday, my mom went to the hospital, and they needed somebody to watch the dog because my brother was going to have to like drop her off in the hospital and go to work. I didn't know how long anybody was going to be gone. I didn't know my brother was dropping her off. I thought she was dropping him off, and it was going to be a short trip, and then she'd be back. I was stuck in his room watching that dog from noon until 3 a.m. So I didn't have anything with me but my computer. I'm just sitting here basically playing Genshin Impact all day, and I'm at like ranked 25 now, and I have a character that's almost at level 50. I'm like at maybe 49 or whatever, yeah. So I've made quite a lot of progress. Even before that, the first thing I did was I went and just unlocked every node, like teleporter on the map, and just unlocked the whole map that I could. There's one area that's locked off because of story, and I hadn't progressed to that part yet. But the rest of the map is just unlocked for me, so I'm just like running around trying to do everything. And there's this one point where I hit a stall in experience where I couldn't get from one rank to the other because I already done like all the missions, and I had gotten chests so out of order and like all these things that they were spaced apart, and there wasn't a lot of clumps for the chests. And I'm just like sitting here combing through the world trying to like find random chests to get my experience to go up.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. In the beginning, you get cards or something. Raise your experience.
Well, that's okay. So there's different types of experience, right? There's your character experience and there's your player experience. Your player experience is your adventurer rank, which goes up as you do many things in the world. When you unlock statues and teleporters, your rank goes up, or you get more experience. When you open a chest, you get more player experience. When you complete missions, you get more player experience, and so on and so forth. When character experience, though, because it's a gacha game, right, is these little, like, I guess, leaflets, declarations. It's like a manual, right? Like a little scroll that's already pulled out. And there's different tiers of it that give you different amounts of experience. So you actually have to manually increase your character's experience that way, or else you're going to be spending forever just killing enemies for the character experience to go up. But that's like how all gacha games work. This one's pretty good, though. It gives you the experience stuff out the wazoo, so it's not like you're actually worrying about finding stuff to upgrade your characters. But the higher they get, obviously, the more and more experience it's going to cost to level them. So you don't just want to like blow all your experience into all the characters you get right away. You want to like focus on a team you like and leveling them up. Because eventually you just get the point that it's going to cost like 100 of those pamphlets to get to the next level, and you're going to run out of them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I've barely played, and apparently I've got all but one of the shock characters. Nothing else, just all the shock ones.
Yeah, he just keeps randomly drawing shock characters from the Wish. No, he got lucky. Because you do a tutorial Wish, so they can teach you how to do the summoning system, right? Every game kind of does that. And in it, you are pretty much guaranteed, I think, to get the character Noelle, who is an Earth character that uses claymores. She's like a maid. And it's to make sure that you have an Earth character. They try to round out your team. This game, they give you enough characters that you can get through the entire story of the game without having to worry about like RNG or anything like that. There's a lot of games that do that. And I think that's what makes this game good. It's really solid that you don't have to worry about the gotcha stuff, except for unless you want completion. There are certain chests that the characters they give you, their spells just won't let you do it in time. But it's like really minute stuff. You'd have to be into 100% completion to really care about that. And there are so many chests that you're going to be spending forever finding them if you care about 100% completion.
Yeah.
But other than that, you can get through the whole game with just the characters they give you. And he got lucky when he drew it. They gave him Noelle like you're supposed to, but then they also gave him another character on top of that. So he got 2 characters in his first draw. I'm like, you lucky son of a bitch.
There were 2 characters in my second draw, too.
Yeah. I've yet to have more than one character per draw. Per 10-fold draw.
That's why I've got all the shock people. I keep getting 2 characters per draw, and it's always the shock people.
Well, it's weird that you're even doing that, because normally you have, like, shitty-ass RNG.
Yeah, normally. I'm actually kind of surprised by that.
But I'm fine. So far, I've gotten all the characters I need. Or, like, the ones that I want. Because the only thing they haven't given you yet, based on the story, is a water character, but I also haven't seen anything in the world that requires water. So that's probably why they haven't. If they expand the map to another area and there's stuff that requires water, they'll probably give you a water character as part of it. But there is a water character that's available in the draw, and you can get it for free if you get to level 20 after signing up within the first 7 days. And that is Barbara, who's a healer. And she's pretty cool.
Seems like it's going to get too complicated for me.
Probably not. I mean, it'd probably get too complicated quick if you didn't start playing now. But games like this, it usually goes up incrementally, so as long as you just, like, even play once a week or so like that, it's pretty easy to keep up with this stuff. It's when you jump into a game like this after it's been out for a year, and then it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because there's just, like, way too much stuff. But the game does a really, really good job of, like, incrementally easing you into the system.
Yeah. Hasn't been too bad so far.
I'm just, I kind of wish it didn't, though. Because one of the things I really liked about Breath of the Wild was that there was barely any tutorial, and you could barely even tell that you were in a tutorial. Because technically, like, the entire Great Plateau was a tutorial. But it didn't feel like you were in a tutorial. You could still, like, explore the plateau. The amount of it that was a tutorial was just the shrines that were to get you the runes that you needed. But after that, like, the game was open, and you could kind of get lost and do whatever you want. And you can in Genshin, but the tutorial's a little bit more forced than Breath of the Wild. Probably because there's a lot more to it, as far as, like, mechanics and stuff go. But you can't even start like donating the little spheres and stuff you collect to the statues until after you do, like, the tutorial mission in the town, because, like, the town is under attack or whatever by the storm dude. And it's like, I just kind of wish it was more open from the very start. That's like my one complaint so far. But after you do that mission, then the world opens up to you a lot more, and you can kind of just go anywhere.
Yeah.
I hate tutorials. I don't know if I've made this known before. I'm a very, like, anti-tutorial guy. I like old games where they told you, like, absolutely nothing, and you learned how to play the game through the way the level was set up. I think Miyamoto actually broke this down before, talking about a genius game creator with the original Mario, right? And he, like, shows a drawing of him, like, sketching out the map with the other guy, and he's showing the level, and you see that he's explaining it. Well, we're gonna put in this the little pyramid with a gap in it, right? We're gonna put a gap here, but there's not gonna be a hole. It's gonna be the floor. So you know you can make this jump, but if you don't know you can make the jump yet, there's no harm, no foul. You fall on the floor. But then after you've made that jump, we're gonna put the exact same setup, but there's actually gonna be a gap that leads to death. But you already know you can make the jump because you had the trial version beforehand. And the game doesn't explain anything to you except through gameplay. It teaches you how to play the game. And it's like really intuitive game design. And that's the type of stuff that, like, I don't know, I admire and value the most about a well-made game.
Well, I'll get into it. I'll probably play some more tonight.
Yeah, I might. I probably shouldn't, but I might anyway.
So guess what else? I found a new story for you.
Oh, okay. What we got
for us to
for the last 15
comment
minutes?
on. Fall Guys Season 2 starts next week.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I don't know what to say about that. Does it have any like previews of what they're adding to the game for it, or?
Yeah, it looks like it's getting a bit more complicated. Like they're calling it Swords and Sorcery Season. I'm not exactly. I guess that's more referring to the costumes you can get. But
yes.
Yeah, looks like the games are a bit more involved. There's one where you have to push blocks to sort of build a stairway to get, it's kind of like the usual racing scenario. You can't get over a barrier. You have to cooperate to sort of push blocks up against the wall so that you can climb up them and get over. And that's
refuse to cooperate and push somebody's blocks out of the way.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or just wait until everybody else have pushed it and then jump over because you're not busy with the push animation.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people complain about a lot of the team events where you seemingly have no no agency. It really depends on how good your team is. So maybe they'll fix that or get rid of those.
I don't know. Those team games are pretty good ways to keep out hackers.
Well, they've got a seemingly pretty good hacking system where they've cordoned off hackers into their own games. Or maybe they're outright banning them now. For a while, they were detecting hackers, putting them all in their own games. It's funny, they posted a video where there was a race and all of the characters are at the very end instantly.
I mean, that's not a problem if you're only putting the hackers with other hackers. Let the people play the game they want as long as they're not ruining it for everybody else. But at first, they were ruining it for everybody else. It took them a little while to start putting the hackers into rooms together.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently they ratcheted up the detection. They didn't want to get too many, false positives, and I don't know exactly how.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. Well, because you can't use a traditional what Steam used their VAC system, the VAC. Because man, some of those systems they detect things they shouldn't be. Right?
Yeah.
I think one time I got detected by a Steam VAC because I still had the League of Legends client open up in the background while I was playing a game, and I had to exit out the game, close the client, and then start it back up for the VAC not to detect him. Why are you detecting that client? Has nothing to do with this. It's not even connected to Steam or anything like that. Sometimes those VACs can be a little too sensitive, and you do get a lot of false positives. But if they have a different system, it might help.
I imagine they could just detect your performance. If you finish a race in a second that's supposed to last a minute.
Yeah, you would hope. Yeah.
So, but they had a whole big thread about how they were.
I'm calling it now. Fall Guys Season 3, Among Us.
Right, you can stab each other.
Listen, Swords and Sorcery, I was thinking What are they gonna have you run in the Thieves Gauntlet from freaking Dungeons and Dragons the movie?
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be pretty.
I imagine some of the games will have something to do with that. I don't know, or maybe they're just referring to the costumes. I don't know. People are so obsessive about the costumes. I'm like, I don't care. I think I've got my original Wolfman pink.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of the costumes. There's like a witch, a knight, and a dragon.
Yeah.
I don't usually care about costumes in games like that. You know, it's just like, get me into the game and get me playing. That's all that really matters. Kind of like I probably
fair,
it
is the only way to personalize yourself in the game now, since you can't name yourself anymore.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I guess for some people it does, but like, you could throw me in a lot of games as an anonymous player with a blank skin, and I'd probably be fine with it. I was about to say, like, it probably died for me a lot sooner than most people, but way back in the day, I used to play Team Fortress. And even when I came back, like, I had hats and stuff. I never put anything on my character. Other than, like, the actual character's equipment, which it also didn't matter because I played default pyro with the shotgun anyway. Because the shotgun had no spread. I just didn't care about customizing that character at all. Just throw me in the game and get me playing is the only thing that actually mattered for that. But I know for some people it matters. It's just not something like I can get my head into. There's like some people are caring about talking about Genshin. They're like, when will costumes come out and stuff like that? Because there's a closet. Though right now the only thing you can change is your glider, and they only have 3 gliders available. Only 2 if you're not on PlayStation, because one of them's a PlayStation exclusive reward. I don't know why it still shows up in my closet, though. If you could tell I'm not a PlayStation user, why are you, like, taunting me with it? Especially because there's no account crossover, so it's not like I can start playing on the PlayStation. The only things that have account crossover is PC and mobile. But people are like, where's the outfits? Where's the outfits? Like, does it really matter? I mean, there'll probably be outfits. These games usually have variations of characters. And since there's a closet, the problem is probably just going to be a gotcha draw, and then you can change what your character looks like. But I just want to get into the game, and I want to start playing. I don't care what the character looks like.
See, I asked you that question, but that's because I saw the closet thing, and it confused me.
Well, you weren't the only person that asked that question. I'm not directly talking about you. Yeah.
I know, but still, it's like, it confused me so much when, like, there's a closet option. It's like, wait, there's a closet? And then I open it up and it's just a glider.
Yeah. Like, it's a gacha game. There will probably be outfits at some point in time. Probably seasonal. Like, Christmas comes around, there'll probably be, like, some Christmas outfits for some of the characters. They'll probably force you to draw them. Most people probably won't get them unless you spend a bunch of money on the game, which I'm definitely not going to do. But I also don't give a shit about the Christmas costumes either, if there are any. I just want to get into the game and I want to start playing. That's how I am with most games in general, you know? Like, I don't give a shit how my character looks. Half the time I don't even care if I have a name on my character. But I think that also comes from playing, like, old games too much, right? Like, Zelda is one of the few games you get to name your character, and for the most part, even, that didn't matter in the first one. You know? It was mostly just to designate your file. Link to the Past, even Zelda 2, I think they said your name. It was still more of a file designation, it just changed out Link's name for yours, whatever you put for the file. But, like, it does nothing for the game, right? Like, you're just playing through the game. It's Link. And I get that there's multiplayer aspect that people want to, like, identify themselves through some way, but I mean, through the history of games, most games didn't let you change anything. So it's hard for me to get my name, like, head around it mattering at the end of the day.
I'm a little upset that Breath of the Wild changed that solely because it's harder to figure out which save file is which now.
Well, they didn't intend it to have multiple save files is the real thing. Right? You've got save states for what is supposed to be the same file. But yeah, I don't know. I don't mind so much. Especially, what's it? I think it's user dependent, right? That's how Breath of the Wild works, like most games now.
I think so. Maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure different users have different save files with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's right.
So you already have your save file. It's not like back on a cartridge where, like, if a family was sharing a cartridge, only 3 people could even have files. That was always a problem in my house growing up, because my mom played games as well. So if it was just me and my 2 brothers, it would have been the perfect amount of save files. But because my mom, who was also primarily buying these games for herself at the time, wanted to play, a lot of times our youngest brother Joey just had to go without playing, or he had to wait until, like, I finished the game and I wasn't too attached to my file. I was like, yeah, you can save over mine, I don't care. Which is how it went with Ocarina of Time. After I finally beat Ganon, I told him, like, hey, I'm done. You can save over my file because I know the other 2 won't let you. So being stuck to users, the fact that we have that amount of memory and flexibility with games now, is kind of a godsend when you have a larger family.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, Animal Crossing for my household was just the perfect amount for the 4 people that played video games. Even though, like, 2 of them were done with that game fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only have the one sister, and she rarely ever played, so, like, every once in a while there's a game where she takes save file 3. But, for the most part, if a game had multiple save files, I could just use them all.
Yeah, I never had that option, unless I personally bought the game and nobody else was going to play it. Like, if it was a Game Boy game, maybe my brothers
really
might borrow it, but they
me because she always just used save file 3. Even if I didn't intend to have any other save files, she always picked save file 3.
I always pick save file 2, even if I'm the only one playing the game.
I always pick 1 because it's the first one. I occasionally play through Metroid Samus Returns, and I just
Yeah.
I delete the oldest one because it gives you 3 save files. I just delete the oldest one and start over.
I played through all 3 save files on Metroid Prime Hunters. Not a lot of games I liked enough that I would play through it on every file slot that you get.
Mm.
Yeah.
Never played all the way through that game. I couldn't stand it.
But yeah.
I'm not crazy about the Metroid Prime game at all. I like the 2D
side scroll ones, yeah.
The one on 3DS wasn't. I played it, but I wasn't a cup of tea.
Yeah, but it was rough arguing for save files, having an entire family that play games, especially because, like, Zelda always gives you 3. It was even harder with A Link to the Past, because for Super Nintendo and before that, my dad still played games. He doesn't like anything after Super Nintendo. He didn't like once things started going 3D. He just liked his older games, and he would start his file over and over again. He didn't, he liked starting over.
Yeah.
And he would beat A Link to the Past in one sitting. It'd be a long sitting, but it'd be like, if he's going to play the game, this is what I'm doing all Saturday. And he'd have us come in, and we would sit around, and he would talk and stuff, but this is like the Saturday thing. And if he didn't beat it, he would just start over the next time he played. But you still need a file to play the game, even though it didn't save until, like, well, I mean, you can save it any time, but the game over thing, right? That's the thing. Even if you're playing it all day, you can still game over. You need a save file to continue playing. So there was only one file available to me and my brothers. We all had to share a single file if we were going to play. Because my mom had one dedicated for her, my dad had one that nobody was allowed to touch, and there was 3 people all sharing the last file of that game.
Did he ever play Link Between Worlds?
No, he hasn't. If it ever gets ported to the Switch, maybe he will, but he doesn't like the handhelds.
Yeah.
Especially ever since he started needing glasses. He hates his glasses. He needs them for reading, but he would need it to play a video game too. And he just doesn't wear his glasses when he doesn't have to. Yeah. So telling him, now I have to play a game on this tiny screen, as opposed to the fact that we actually got, there's a little input lag because it's meant for a CRT, but we hooked up an NES for him, and he was playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on the big screen in the living room. And he's like, oh, this game, I don't need glasses for this. It's like, why would he play a game on a DS when he can just play it on a TV if he does even want to play it?
Yeah. Well, Rick came in just for the end.
Just for the end.
Lol.
Yeah, it is time to cut it off. So, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Marsupial, for coming as usual now. And thank you, Buck, for jumping in. And we will see you guys hopefully next time, assuming the schedule goes as normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, see ya.
See you later. It was fun.